Odyssey Sports Station.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Amherst. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Gene's a big timer, a social misfit. Clueless to the title of the biggest buskeg hits. Chuck Munchie's goons have the last say. So thanks for your time, Mr. Mayo. Danger likes his cold ones and he likes his bears. But this is Rochester, cute Francesa.
Oh, who cares?
He's critical of Sean, he's critical of Alan. Of course he married Sandy, cause she's Italian. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
Feels good to be back. Back in the sports bar. Danger and Battaglia. Glad you're with us at 95.7 FM, AM 950. The Fan Rochester and the free-to-download Odyssey app. Our stream is up and rolling. You can watch the sports bar on our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester and streaming on Twitch at The Fan Rochester as well. Alongside Gene Battaglia, I am merely Mike Danger.
You are not terrible take Timmy.
Who's terrible take? I know of terrible time, Timmy. Who's terrible take, Timmy?
Honestly, if there's one regret was not getting in here soon enough today to pull the audio yesterday of just Tim's take that he just got eviscerated on the Buffalo Bills, where I think we can all acknowledge that Taron Johnson is a really, really good football player.
He's one of the best players in the league at his position.
He, you could say, is really the key to the Sean McDermott defense. That the way that you are playing nickel on every down, if not dime, the way you can move him around in many different roles, it's hard to account for if you don't see that.
I would say at worst, at his position, he's third best in the league. At worst, you could say that.
In the AFC, I would say not Pro Bowler, all pro, meaning you are the best at your position here. Tim's take was just another guy. Just
he's a jag?
Yeah, just a jag. Like, okay. Yeah, like there was the pass rush that caused that interception for the pick six. So, yeah, we were off and running yesterday, but we had fun.
So I imagine if terrible time Timmy threw out the take that Taron Johnson is just average, just a guy, that went over well, that everybody enjoyed that take?
Like there was a caller that came through Rudy and just like, yeah, come on in, buddy. Rudy, just I stood back. I just let.
Oh, no.
Oh, it was, yeah, I'll have to play that for you.
No, so I didn't realize I was going to have to do mop-up duty here in the sports bar today, clean up the mess that terrible take Timmy left behind. But here we are. And it's one day closer to the big game, the one that we had circled when they released the schedule. We all had this one ready to go.
Here's another terrible take, not at the level of terrible take Timmy, but the terrible take that, hey, this is just another regular season game. In the big picture, what does this really mean for Buffalo? Are you just trying to rationalize if the Bills lose this game that it's just another game like you're playing the Colts here?
Right.
Or really?
Right.
Really?
I think the players will say that because it's what's being drilled into their head and their products. They're like robots right now, right? They're products of their environment. So they're being told just another game, just another opponent. We as fans, we get so invested in it, maybe a little bit more than we need to. We like to act like we're more invested than even the players are invested in. And let's face it, like there are going to be players that if the Bills lose, that won't be as downtrodden on it as the fans will be. Like there will be fans more upset about a Bills loss on Sunday than some of the players.
That is always the case. Now, after a playoff loss, it's a little different. The locker room usually is very quiet and sullen, but this is important, Danger. I'm not saying that the Bills are going to get the number one seed if they win this game, but what I can say is hard to imagine Kansas City not just kind of coasting in if they get past this. You look at their schedule, and we talked to Jay Binkley yesterday. We'll talk to Alex Gold. We'll set you up.
Man, I picked a good day to not be in yesterday.
Oh, gosh, that was back and forth. That
was
fun.
Jay just piling on. I mean,
Patrick Mahomes is 12-1-1 as an underdog. He really, in the NFL, go ahead, make him an underdog for this game.
Yeah,
even Jay though wasn't ready to say oh my gosh, the Chiefs are going to go 17-0 because, and I think his take is correct, if the Chiefs win this game, Andy Reid likely would take the Tony Dungy route, meaning, remember the 1 year with the Colts? Hey, they could go undefeated. Yeah, you know what? Rest. Let's make sure we get our guys ready for the postseason. So he's kind of leaving some wiggle room at the end. But the point here being, Danger, you lose this game, then you're going to have to go to Arrowhead in the postseason.
Correct. And look, I don't know. I mean, where do you put value on that? Because last year it was like, if we only had Kansas City at home, and you had that, and it didn't matter. And the one seed is the one thing that you haven't, the one area of the postseason that the Bills have yet to explore.
I would say this, more so than the home field is the extra week of rest. Just look, you're the 2 seed and you're getting a 7 slappy. Maybe that's Denver. Maybe it's even the Colts. Who knows who that 7 seed is going to be? You shouldn't be stressed. But then again, injuries and everything else, it would be just better to take the week off there and just let everybody duke it out there in the wild card round.
Yeah, that would be certainly a benefit that I think they would enjoy. And it, like I said, it's the one path in the postseason that they've yet to explore in the Josh Allen era. What do they look like if they're a 1 seed? Maybe they get that. The win obviously would help. It doesn't secure anything, but it would help. It would definitely help. And especially when you look at the rest of the schedule down the stretch for the Bills, you get through this 4-game stretch here with the Lions, with the Rams, with the Niners, then I think we have a more realistic expectation of what this at minimum, you could say the Bills are hosting a home game right now. I think you could say that with certainty, with near certainty today, right now, win or lose on Sunday. The Bills will have at least a home playoff game.
Oh, gosh, I would say even if they lose this game, I mean, tell me the scenario where they don't win the AFC East right now.
No, there is no scenario. Yeah. So I guess if you're satiated with that and you don't want to explore the finality of what it looks like as a 1 seed, then Sunday's game is just another game. It's just Week 11 in the NFL, but we all know differently.
We should also just kind of, we're so in the moment, just take a half step back because look how far this organization has come. We make fun of other downtrodden franchises on this show for dysfunction all the time. The Bills were that franchise. They were that franchise where the GM said he wasn't privy to things, where the head coach was saying things, the owner.
Dude.
They 100% of the nation is seeing this game Sunday.
I just spent the last 2 days in Chicago. Do you want to know what a dysfunctional franchise looks like?
Well,
I can explain it.
Well, let's say a new offensive coordinator that was credited for Geno Smith. No, let's fire him. Oh, wait, there's some in the locker room that actually want to bench Caleb Williams. What's the head coach doing? I don't even know.
The history just repeats itself over and over and over again, and that is insanity. It's beyond dysfunction. It's insanity.
I did not text you on Sunday because what could I possibly say? You lost to the Patriots. Mm-hmm. At home.
Yeah.
You lost to the Patriots. Mm-hmm. You lost to Mr. Mayo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It wasn't even close.
Drake May was the better quarterback on Sunday. Drake May. Yeah. I think most if you're a fan of a team that is dysfunctional, you just kind of, we're at the stage of the week here where acceptance, it kind of sits, all right, well, this is where we are. We're at the acceptance phase on a Thursday. By Saturday, I'll be ready for Green Bay. I'll be ready to say, all right, but let's see what happens. I don't think they're going to win, but let's see what happens. No. Let's see what happens. Let's at least see if there's a difference in how the offense performs with Waldron out of there. Let's see. But if you remember the Bills, it was very similar. It was, oh, here we go again, this vicious cycle of drafting the wrong quarterback and not having the head coach and
fire a coordinator
to bring it back around to what you said originally. Yeah, let's take inventory on where we are and where we've been. And man, as critical as we can be of Sean McDermott, we can get on Josh when he makes mistakes, and he hasn't made many of them so far this season. They're consistent. This franchise has been consistent. You've got continuity, and you've become everything that I think you would want out of a team. You've got a dynasty in the division right now, and it's the Buffalo Bills. They just haven't gotten to that final chapter, the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and the parallels are there that you don't have two quarterbacks and two teams that are not divisional opponents meet as regularly as the Bills and Chiefs did since we had Manning and Brady. And for so many years, it was Manning who couldn't get over until finally one day he did. Is that going to happen this year? I don't know the answer to that. That's why we're all invested. This is
it's
a
a high drama
fantastic story. Yeah,
and you mentioned it. Sunday will be the 15th time that the Chiefs have been underdogs with Mahomes as a starter. The Chiefs are 11-3 straight up in those games, 12-1-1 against the spread.
Oh, you should just do it in your Jay Binkley voice.
However,
yeah.
Last week when they failed to cover as a 7.5-point favorite against the Broncos, this Chiefs team lost their third straight game against the spread, dropping their against the spread winning percentage to .404 in weeks 8 through 18, dating back to 2018. They have struggles against the spread late in the season. Only the Jets have been worse after week 7 over the course of the last 7 seasons.
It's noteworthy that the Chiefs have trailed in every game but one this year. It's a different team. They are resourceful as heck. I'm not saying they're down. They're not down. It's just kind of a different look. It's also noteworthy, Danger, that, all right, so the Bills and Chiefs, here the Bills favored by 2.5, but then the line yesterday went toward Kansas City. This is the third straight week. Now it's gone back to 2.5. It went to 2 yesterday. Third straight week. That money, whether it's sharp money or public money, that has swayed the line so much going against Buffalo. And, all right, 2 weeks ago, kind of get it. It was a divisional game against Miami, and Miami's down, but it still is a divisional game, and we identified it. I called it. You don't care that I was right. Nobody cares that I was right. But the Bills win that game. They don't cover. Last week, oh, come on. This is the Colts. This is Joe Flacco, and you're only laying 4. You and I both said, no, this is an easy one. Now what do you make of – now it's back to 2.5, so there goes my point. But at one point this week, for the third straight week, money was shifting a line against Buffalo, which I think is noteworthy.
Yeah, we'll give our predictions tomorrow. I'll be on the break room tomorrow morning, and I don't know. I mean, those records against the spread – as an underdog are pretty damning, right? Like when you see that, you look at it and you're like, oh, God. And then there's more to add to this. And I'm not going to say, I'm not the guy that's going to complain about a bad call if the Bills lose. It's not going to be something you hear me do. But going into the game, I do think it's worth paying attention to who's officiating and what their tendencies are, because everybody is going to say that everything goes the Chiefs' way. They're so lucky. It's rigged. The Chiefs, the refs love the Chiefs. Mahomes gets all the calls. Lan Clark is going to be the officiating crew here. And they rank number 1 in the NFL for illegal formation penalties. They are number 2 in calling false starts. The Bills are the second most penalized offense for false starts, behind only the aforementioned dysfunctional Chicago Bears. The Chiefs are the least penalized team for pre-snap penalties, your false starts, your illegal shifts, your illegal formations. That brings me to another point about the Chiefs, Gino. And I know a lot of people will say that the way they won the game on Sunday against the Broncos is lucky. And I'm not saying that. I'm saying the way they won that game by blocking a last-second field goal was not luck, but rather extreme attention to detail. If you watch the film of and somebody broke it down brilliantly, and I'm not going to give credit because I can't remember who it was, but somebody broke it down. The guy that got run over basically had a tendency. He was too back on his heels, and the Chiefs recognized it, so they blew him up, and they knew they could get to the kick. And so they just basically bum rushed this guy for the Broncos that was on the line that was completely outmatched. And they blocked the kick. I mean, that's just attention to detail. That's just knowing a weakness of an opponent and exploiting that weakness. And how do you do that? You do that when you have not 1, not 2, but 3 actual head coaches on your coaching staff. And I'm not even talking about the special teamer, the special teams coach for Kansas City. They are just that well coached. And to the point of the least penalized team for pre-snap penalties, you're a well-coached team. You're not jumping off sides. When you see those pre-snap penalties at home, what's up? That's a lack of discipline. That's a lack of coaching.
Another positive, though, I could throw at you, Danger. Anybody wants to jump in, 866-4FAN. We got Dan Fates coming up at the bottom of the hour, too. Buffalo plus 13 wham. We'll talk Bills and Chiefs here. If there's one weakness of the Bills, it's not some guy on the offensive line on a special teams kick. At least I don't think it is. I think it's actually the run defense. And maybe this gets better with Matt Milano. Maybe when you get the rookie Carter back in there, the defensive tackle, maybe there's things that will improve this by the time you get to the postseason. But with no Isaiah Pacheco, like if Kareem Hunt and Carson Steele or whoever else is carrying the ball and get off on Buffalo, we have a problem. I look at the Colts last week. Okay, that's kind of going the way we expected. There goes Jonathan Taylor. And they only run him 5 times in the second half. That was still a game in the second half.
Yeah.
So I would think that maybe Kansas City would kind of go back and look at maybe the Colts game the first half, or maybe the Dolphins game, or maybe some of the times where you realize, hey, you can actually run on these guys. Arizona did that for a half, and then they stopped. Sometimes I just can't figure out these coaches. Like, hey, if it's working, well, let's go try to do something else now. No, keep at it.
Our buddy Sigmund Bloom from Football Guys calls it the assumption of rational coaching. You believe that they're going to do the right thing, the rational thing, based on what you're seeing and what we all see, and it doesn't always happen in the NFL.
My point is, like, you look at Kansas City this year, and yes, they're winning games, but I don't know if they can really take advantage of what Buffalo's perceived defensive weakness is.
Well, I would hope that the Bills' run defense can stifle Kareem Hunt. I would hope that is a possibility, right? Like the physicality of the Chiefs is something that is of note, and those games, the Bills-Chiefs games, are always physical, both sides of the ball, back and forth. So that might be enough to get Kareem Hunt going, but Kareem Hunt, the player, is not the same Kareem Hunt he was when he came into the league. The speed isn't there. He's still a powerful runner, and he's still somebody you're going to have to account for and stop. But, I mean, think about how much has changed. They're still winning games. Earlier this year, we were wondering, is Travis Kelce out of shape? And we were basically saying, like, the slow start is why the slow start with Travis Kelce? Oh, the slow start is because he came in out of shape. He was partying all summer long. He was living his best life, and he's not the same guy that he was when he was in his 20s. He's at an advanced stage right now in his career. And, oh, by the way, as the season has gone on, he has gotten better and better and better, and you can't discount him.
Binkley pointed out, right now he's 4th in the league in receiving. Not amongst tight ends, just period. You're like, so, but again,
that's what the slow start. Like the slow start that he had everybody go, well, what's going on with Kelce? What Kelce was out of shape. Yeah, he was, and he's fine now. He's okay now. So you have to account for that guy too. And D-Hop looks like D-Hop.
Isn't that weird? He was just here, and you wouldn't even know it, but you had Mason Rudolph throwing him the football, and I could see.
No, he was pacing up and down the sideline, sulking, and now he's involved, and he's good. You're going to have to account for that guy as well. So I don't think it's going to be. I mean, look, we always expect a great game between these two teams, these two quarterbacks. I think we will get that, but I struggle to see it as a high scoring affair. I feel like it's going to be like a heavyweight battle where they're just kind of punching each other and feeling each other out throughout the course of the game.
When we talked to PJ Glasser yesterday, and like you go back through the recent history, like our minds tell us 13-second game, AFC Championship game, the Chiefs put up 38. Regular season, no, it's ball control. These teams want the 12-play, 80-yard drive that takes 8 minutes off the clock, and the over/under is only at 46. To me, that's an easy play. Go under on this one. All these games in the regular season have gone under. Maybe it would have gone over had Kadarius Toney not been offside last year.
Right.
But,
I didn't bring that up. But, yeah, we forget about how that game ended. The Bills got the win last year, but they got the win on that call. They don't have to apologize. They got the win. But that would have been another chapter in the, oh, my God, they lost the game. How? They lost the game how? A lateral to Darius Toney? What? Well, that's now Kansas City can look at it and be like, well, yeah, We should have won that game if not for a toe being offsides. Alex Gold of Cody and Gold, you mentioned it, from our sister station, our Odyssey Sports sister station, 96.5 The Fan in Kansas City, will be stopping by, and we'll talk more Bills and Chiefs. At 4:25 this afternoon, we'll get the latest out of Kansas City. And Dan Fates, Buffalo Plus, and 13 Wham Sports stops by the sports bar next. What do we know from practice today? We've got Keon Coleman out. We know that.
Yeah, he's definitely not playing this week. We know Amari Cooper is dropping hints that he will play. And
trending in the right direction.
In the portion that was open to the media, we did not see Dalton Kincaid, and we did not see Spencer Brown. Checking. Do we have
an injury report?
No, not yet.
Okay.
So no practice report yet.
We'll talk a little bit with Dan Fates about what's been going on in Orchard Park this week as the Bills prepare for their matchup with Kansas City on Sunday afternoon. Dan Fates, 13 Web Sports, BuffaloPlus.com. Our guest next on The Fan.
You're listening to the
Spencer Brown and Dalton Kincaid not seen at practice today in the portion that was open to the media. The official Thursday injury report for the Buffalo Bills has yet to come out. Quarterback Josh Allen on that Chiefs run defense.
They're smart football players. I think Spags dials up really good pressures in run situations. But I guess, it comes down to the Jimmies and Joes, the guys that they got in that front and their linebacker core. They play extremely hard. They play to the whistle. It's a very, very well-coached group.
Dan Pate's 13 Wham and Buffalo Plus scheduled to join us next year in the Sports Bar. We've got Sabres hockey tonight. The Blues, the opponent. 7:30 for the puck drop. Devin Levi to get the starting goal. UPL day to day. Also not in the lineup for Buffalo tonight is Tage Thompson. Tampa Bay Rays to play their 2025 home games at Steinbrenner Field, the spring training home of the Yankees. Gene Battaglia, the Fan, Rochester.
Neat or on the rocks? It's the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
His brain, I would definitely say that. I mean, he's such a smart player, and he knows angles and really good with leverage. So if you're playing a certain leverage on him, he's going to get off of that, go the opposite way. And I feel like Patrick Mahomes is just on the same page with him. Obviously, they spend so much time together, So I just feel like that's probably the biggest thing is how smart of a player he is, how smart Patrick is, and them being on the same page.
DeAndre Hopkins change what the Chiefs tried to do on offense. He looks like he's a lot more involved the last couple of weeks.
I mean, obviously his catching ability is tremendous. I mean, he's been a great player in the league for a very long time. Just making sure we have an awareness for him and being disruptive, whether that be on the line of scrimmage or the catching point.
Here's your reigning AFC Defensive Player of the Week, average Taron Johnson. On defending Travis Kelce and DeAndre Hopkins.
Shame on me for not going back and pulling that audio, but then part of me just doesn't want to. Tim was nice enough to fill in.
Yeah, big thank you to Terrible Time Timmy for stepping into the Sports Bar for a couple of days while I took in some sights in Chicago. I did have a moment where I geeked out a little bit.
Did you go to
probably would have embarrassed you if you were in the same room with me.
Who did you run into?
You're a fan of The Bear. You and I like The Bear. It's a good show. Right?
Don't tell me you met somebody from the cast of The Bear.
Not really somebody from the cast, but he had a cameo in The Bear. He's one of the restaurant guys in The Bear.
Wait a second. Is this your buddy that is now living in Hawaii because he's wealthy? And
Yeah. He got referenced in The Bear. He wasn't in The Bear. He's like a friend. The guy that he is also friends with runs one of the restaurants that they showcase in The Bear, and he's there as one of the scenes where she's interviewing other restaurateurs. He's in there and he's like, talking to her about how I hope you trust your investors. You have to have really good partners, a really good experience, blah blah blah. And he has a very distinctive look to him. He wears like a scarf and the whole thing. He looks like a guy that would run a restaurant.
Right.
And he shows up at this dinner that I was at in Chicago, and I kind of geeked out a little bit. I'm like, oh my God, that's the guy from The Bear. I got to get a picture. And I did. Got a picture with him. He's just
it's not Jeremy Allen White or anybody, any lead there. It's not, no.
No, I got excited. And I got excited because I'm like, wait until my daughter sees who I took a picture with. She'll freak out. And that was what got me excited about it. I don't get starstruck often, but I was a little starstruck there. For a second, I'm like, oh my God, that's the guy for The Bear.
You don't get starstruck. I've never seen you starstruck.
So I'm saying I probably would have embarrassed you if you were there. You'd probably be like, hey, settle down a little bit. Calm down. We got talking about one of our friends who wasn't at this dinner was a guy who was one of the original voices of the Jerky Boys. And because the Jerky Boys came up, I had to start talking like Saul. And they, I won him over with my Saul Rosenberg. They're like, were you one of the? I was like, I was not one of the Jerky Boys. I was not. I know the guy who was, but it was not me.
This coffee is too hot.
Oh, I just had a sip of coffee and I burned my tongue, and now I'm going to sue Odyssey. I'm suing everybody. Punitive damages.
We're trying to get Dan Fates. You know what? Lots going on at Orchard Park, and no injury report yet.
Yeah, so he might just be running a little bit late, which is totally fine. This stuff happens. Just hang with us. We'll have a lot. While we have a second here, Danger, this actually, if I had to say, okay, of all the windows for television, so to speak, the television windows, all right, late afternoon, fantastic on Sunday, right? Bills, Chiefs. 1 o'clock. Ravens Steelers.
Yep.
Tonight.
Good game.
Good game.
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of, all right. And then Sunday night, Bengals, Chargers. Kind of feels almost like an elimination game, maybe for the Bengals in a sense. If you lose to the Chargers, that's a team that's going to be ahead of you in more ways than one. And then we get to Monday night, the Cowboys and Texans.
Mm-hmm.
Where, all right, it's like we're kind of like we're going to a peak, and then we're going to kind of go up.
Yeah, the peak is Sunday afternoon.
Right.
No question. And I know that a lot of people will be like, well, why don't they just flex that game into Sunday night? It's like, no. They have to play fair, and every network wants their marquee matchup. And there's some games where they're like, no, you can't flex that.
No, that's a protected one. So, like, there are some games that they say, nope, that is going to be ours. Sorry, it's off limits. Gosh, you would never get the Cowboys flexed on a Monday night. I thought we were supposed to flex Monday night games here, too. I think we did one last year with the Eagles, I want to say. We had the Eagles and Seahawks kind of go into it. Somebody will correct me on that. But what we have here Monday night, we had PJ Glasser on yesterday, and he's like telling us take the Cowboys and the points on this.
Really? Too many points?
Too many points.
What's it at,
well,
7.5?
It's a home underdog on a Monday night, I guess. Always kind of go with it.
Yeah, I watched that Sunday night game between the Lions and the Texans, and it just kind of reaffirmed what I already knew going into that game, that the Lions are really, really good. For them to overcome 5 boneheaded interceptions by Jared Goff, who's been steady all season long, save for this game, and still get the win and find a way to win, it has the feeling, the mark of a team that is destined for something beyond where they were last year. I mean, you remember what this feels like. Your teams have gone through this. It just feels special. It feels different. It doesn't feel like last season even felt when they made it to the NFC Championship. It feels like this is a Super Bowl team.
Or Houston's just not very good. That could be it, too. Like, you're handed all these gifts here, and their offense still couldn't figure it out.
I mean, I would say Houston, it's not that they're not that good. They haven't arrived yet. That they're good, but they haven't completely arrived yet. Those are games that, yes, you're right. They're going to wish. And if the Bills would have beaten them in a similar fashion, then we'd be like, yeah, Houston, a bunch of frauds. I'm not going to call Houston frauds yet.
I think we're going to get to January. We might be saying that because Houston, they're going to win their division. They're 6-4. Who's going to knock them off? The Colts? The Titans at 2-7? No, Houston's going to back in, but they're not going to accumulate enough wins to be anything more than the 4 seed. So congratulations, you're going to get the top wild card. Who's the top wild card going to be? Is it going to be Baltimore?
Yeah.
Is it going to be Pittsburgh?
Right. It's one of those two
Yeah,
teams.
it's going to be some team that's going to go in there, and we're all going to be picking against Houston in the postseason. We have a little bit of breaking news in the sports.
Breaking news in the sports bar.
Ow! 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 It really hit me. I didn't know it was coming back that far.
You know, whenever breaking news happens, they always have that sound. Dun, 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 dun. You know, we don't have that. We have John Sterling getting plunked by a foul ball. That's our breaking news.
As long as John Sterling is still on this planet, and by gosh, he was actually calling games this past postseason, he will still be our breaking news sounder. The Bills' injury report is out, and I don't think there's really any surprises. We already knew Keon Coleman's been ruled out for this game. Not practicing today. Spencer Brown not practicing today. Dalton Kincaid limited Amari Cooper.
Mm-hmm.
Cooper was saying positive things. He did talk to the media following practice, but nothing definitive on that. So if you had to say right now, it's trending in the direction of Amari Cooper playing. It doesn't look good for Dalton Kincaid's playing. So can the Bills get a game out of Dawson Knox? You're paying Dawson Knox all this money.
And you said Spencer Brown was limited or out?
I'm sorry, did not practice.
Did not practice. So
Sorry.
Spencer Brown out as well, which I think is massive. Spencer Brown's having a really nice season at right tackle, and if he's not out there, you always want to say next man up. But I mean, one of the things that the Bills have had a luxury of here the last season plus is that continuity on the offensive line. Trust me, I mean, there are a lot of teams that struggle getting the same 5 guys out there every week, and I think it matters. In fact, I know it matters. Not having him out there, it would be problematic on Sunday.
Yeah, it's an ankle injury. And then if you factor into, all right, if you keep him out this game and then you get the bye, you know, everybody will be kind of dispersing right after this game in Buffalo. Will that help out some of these guys here? The Kincaid thing is a little concerning because he did try to come back last week, and I'm like, that's not working. So he couldn't finish out last week.
Yeah. And you're right, Dawson Knox, somebody that does very well for himself, given the output doesn't match the paycheck. Let's just put it that way. And I know that there are other intangible things that he brings to the table, but you expect that he would have a larger role, a bigger game if Kincaid can't go. And I wonder about the run game. I wonder if it is more James Cook, more Davis out of the backfield, and more Josh. Honestly, more Josh running the football. I mean, it seems like against Kansas City, he'll tuck it and run and take matters into his own hands a little bit more often than I think we see in a normal game.
That was the one PJ play from yesterday, too, because I'm asking him about, all right, if we have these injuries, who's going to get the ball here? It's like, don't pay any attention to the receptions. Hard to say that. You can say over on Josh Allen rushing yards on Sunday. That was a comfortable bet.
Yeah. I also, just a side note, I also like that the Bills demoralized the Colts so much that they reversed course and Anthony Richardson's going to start games again.
Not only did they reverse, but the coach is, gaslighting you. Like basically, no, we're gonna stick with him for the rest of the year. You just said you were gonna stick with Flacco for the rest of the year. Now you're going back, and it's just the rest of the year. Oh, okay. Look, it is the right decision. They're not gonna go anywhere. Like, if you say Flacco gets into the postseason, what is the ultimate prize? A first-round playoff exit? Who cares? You got to figure out if you have the quarterback or not. So, good on them. And it's not a game I'll be tuning into. Colts at Jets. Ooh, 4-6 against 3-7. Ooh, and yet somehow you hear on the Infinity Sports Network and everybody else, oh my gosh, Aaron Rodgers says he may come back next year.
Do the Jets want him to come back next year?
The answer to that is more than likely no, right? If the Jets are trying to get a head coach, the head coach is going to want to start clean. He's not going to want to deal with Aaron Rodgers.
If Woody is still involved, I don't know that Woody hasn't gotten his new assignment, right, in the Trump cabinet.
Right. So, but say he does get that assignment, and then he's hands off, and you let football people make football decisions. You're kind of moving off of Aaron Rodgers, and you're trying to find your next quarterback through the draft.
Well, what I was going to say is if Woody is involved, he probably has the head coach is a prerequisite. You're going to have to work with Aaron Rodgers for one more year because I think Woody and Aaron Rodgers are married. I feel like Woody is just enamored. He's head over heels with Aaron Rodgers.
But does Aaron Rodgers go the road? See, the Brett Favre analogy falls short for me. Just one simple way. Brett Favre could still play.
Yeah.
He could still play into his 40s.
Here's the analogy I like for Rodgers right now, and what I think we're seeing with Rodgers in New York. And in New York fans, you're going to have to stick with me with it. I'm going to go way back. Maybe not as far back as the Charleston, but I think the analogy of what we're seeing here with Aaron Rodgers is very similar to what we saw at the end of Joe Namath's career.
Whoa. Okay, that's before my time.
Deep pull.
Explain what a deep pull.
Deep pull, I know.
Is this where you were when you were having dinner with the old guys?
This is just an observation. But if you look at what Namath did as a Jet, I mean, obviously he's historic. He's going to go down as one of their greatest quarterbacks of all time. They guarantee you get the win over the Colts, and his production starts to decline as he gets older. And at the time, I want to say he was 32, maybe 34, more like 32. I mean, 32 back then is like 40 now, right? The game is just played differently now, and quarterbacks get their heads kicked in every single week. So by the time he got to this stage of his career, the production had declined. He was not a very good quarterback, but he wanted to finish out his career. The Jets said, all right, fine. Well, they release him, and he goes to the Rams for 1 year. And he goes to the Rams because the Rams are loaded, and it's L.A. Broadway Joe goes to L.A., big deal. And he goes to L.A. where you've got a team around him that's ready to compete, a team that could, go to the Super Bowl. And Joe shows up, and he's just not the same guy. He doesn't have the ability. His body is breaking down. His knees aren't good. He's not mobile at all. And eventually he gets injured, and Pat Hayden takes over, and Pat Hayden guides the team to the postseason for the L.A. Rams at the time, and Namath watches it from the bench and calls it a career at the end of it. Now, I'm not saying that Tyrod is going to come in and supplant Aaron Rodgers as the Jets starting quarterback the rest of the season. If there's an injury would happen, and yes, that's what would happen, but I'm not saying that the Jets are making it to the postseason. I'm just saying I think the comparison of what his career was at the end, where you remember him for being what he was for a franchise for as long as it was, and then just sharp decline where it's just not there anymore, and it's got to be frustrating. That feels like what Rodgers is going through, a guy that really is a Green Bay Packer. I'm going to struggle remembering him for this season in New York. It hasn't been good. He doesn't look like Aaron Rodgers.
Well, it's somebody the one thing is somebody actually going to have the ear of Aaron Rodgers and say, hey, this is kind of the way to go. Again, this analogy is going to fall short, but the closest thing I can come to for the Buffalo Bills, you can say up until Josh Allen, he was the greatest quarterback in franchise history. Some would say, hey, he's the only quarterback that matters, and they got a team to 4 Super Bowls. Jim Kelly's last year in Buffalo was bad. Mm-hmm. They still got to the postseason, but it was like, what do you do here? But luckily, he had his brothers. He had people around him. He was shot by that point physically. And you forget that, oh, yeah, he spent years in the USFL. So by the time 96 comes along, the Bills kind of get into the playoffs. They lose to a second-year team in Jacksonville, and then Kelly retires. Everyone's shocked. Oh. And then there was talk maybe he'd go to the Steelers or somewhere else like that, but he stayed away. And I will always respect Jim Kelly for that. Like, okay, time is up. For Aaron Rodgers, he lives in his own bubble. He will go somewhere else next year.
Will anybody want him? I don't think anybody will want him. Honestly, if the Jets don't want him, I don't think there is an NFL team that will want him.
What about like look at not GMs but owners, meddlesome owners?
You think like the Raiders?
Thinking like Carolina.
Yeah, I mean we got Bryce Young. You got to see what you have in the kid. The Raiders, to me, like, okay, they really don't have a plan. Like, there's zero plan there as far as what they're going to do for the quarterback today or in the future. Mm-hmm. They'll lost ship at sea. So maybe you bring him in for his final season and he gives you another year to right the ship. But I don't even think that they would want him because he's just not that player anymore. And not only is he not that player, he's a distraction. He comes with a lot of headaches. And everything that he has done with his time here in New York and everything that he's done in bringing in his guys to see what it has resulted in, which is a team that's going to miss the postseason, is it worth it? Is it worth all of that headache? I don't think there's a single team that if the Jets don't want Aaron Rodgers next year, I don't think there's a single team that would be like, oh, yeah, sign me up. I want that guy. I don't know that he gives you that hope that the Jets had when they got him from Green Bay. So we'll see. And that matchup, you're right. Indianapolis and the Jets, probably not one that we had circled on the schedule as one we wanted to check out. But I'm interested to see what Anthony Richardson looks like moving forward. Did he really learn the last couple of weeks? Did he improve? Is he ready to go? We'll see.
We found Dan Fates. He was in the middle of his kitchen remodel.
That's very important stuff, Dan. We appreciate you breaking away from home improvement projects and your life as a girl dad to join us here in the sports bar. How are you, buddy? Oh, there we go.
Sorry, Dan.
Hey, Dan. How are you,
buddy?
buddy?
Good. How are you? I thought you hung up on me.
No, how's the kitchen? Well, everything looking beautiful? We go with the marble? We go with granite? What do we go with?
Yeah, totally. Obviously, just remodeling the kitchen today. Just cabinets. We're just reworking some cabinets.
Okay.
So, yeah, haven't had my phone on me. And then I see Gene text me saying, you all good? Like, yeah, totally. Obviously, I'm all good. Nothing rattles me.
Well, Dan, what advice would you give to any other reporter, anybody else in this business, moving during football season, much less kitchen remodel during football season, much less, hey, not one but 2 daughters and another one on the way here? Like, dude, you got a full plate here, bud.
Yeah, no, everything's going fine. I highly recommend everybody having a third child during the middle of the Bill season, moving during training camp, and then doing all this as my friend and carpenter and everybody and my handyman next to me, contractor, is just laughing at me as I try and do an interview. But we're here to talk Bills.
All right, how concerned are we about some of these injuries, Dan? Let's start there because Spencer Brown, to me, is a big concern. Amari Cooper feels like it might be trending in the right direction, but no Dalton Kincaid has me a bit concerned for Sunday against the Chiefs. What's your take on the injuries?
Yeah, out of all of them, it's funny. We did our Buffalo Plus show yesterday, and just the fact of, honestly, Keon Coleman may be the one guy that if I could wave my magic wand and get somebody to play, just the way that he came on and the way that he brings a physicality to this offense. Spencer Brown's also another concern. I'm with you there, Danger. But I'm not saying it's apples to apples, but Ryan Vandermark has played well at times. Last year, he subbed in for Deion Dawkins in the Miami game when Deion ripped his hand open, and he was the guy that was the right tackle on that final drive that went 7 minutes long and sprung Khalil Shakir on that 30-yard wide receiver screen. So, I feel kind of confident with some of the other guys behind it. I'm not saying I want that for the entire season, but I don't know how much they're going to push guys knowing there's also a bye next week. So all of that coming into fruition, Cooper seems to be trending in the right direction. That's hopeful.
Dan, it's a strange series, meaning, all right, in the regular season, they met a bunch of times. Only the one game we couldn't go to in 2020 is the only time the Chiefs got over on the Bills. Postseason, obviously. Why the difference between the two? Would you say the postseason, the regular season here?
I don't know, experience, the fact that you've done it before, the fact that the Chiefs can play free. We were talking about it. They're a made man. They can play free. Yeah, you can say the pressure of wanting to go 17-0 and going to 3 straight Super Bowls and winning all those championships, but they can play careless and free. For the Bills, that's been the hurdle that they can't get over. And you don't know what you don't know, and until they get over that cloud is kind of going to be hanging over the Bills. They play free in the regular season. And Spencer Brown, we talked to him. When we talked to him yesterday, he was hopeful that he would be able to play. He was asked if this was a measuring stick game for the Bills, and he said, "You know what? We play them a lot. We play them usually twice a year." He goes, "So this is the intro, and we'll see how the outro goes. This is only week 11." He goes, "Teams are going to change a lot." I think that's the right perspective to have. Minus some kind of blowout, either way, one way or another, this isn't going to necessarily change the way that I view either team.
Right. At worst, I mean, for the Bills, you're hosting a home playoff game. That's correct. The worst case scenario if you don't get over on Kansas City at home. But what about that 1 seed, Dan? What about that uncharted territory for this team? And how beneficial could that potentially be here as a team is trying to stay healthy and you get that extra week before your gauntlet there in the postseason?
Yeah, I think whether it's the 1 seed or the 2 seed, the only thing, and it's so funny, right? We've been talking about these seeds of when when the Bills will lock up the division 2 weeks ago, and I thought you guys were crazy. Now it's kind of like, where will they seed and what's the path possibly? I think the Bills, you don't want to have to face the Ravens and the Chiefs. You want them to somehow run into each other so one of them can take out the other so you don't have to play both. Whether that means you have to be the 1 seed, whether that means you have to be the 2 seed or whatever. That's what I look at when I start thinking about standings, because this is a big game in that respect. We know these teams are going to go in the playoffs. We know they're probably going to see each other again. It's just a matter of not having to go through a total gauntlet of facing both of them. That's my view on it.
Dan, I had to laugh. I thought of you last week. Here are the Bills up 30-13 on the Colts, and
you got to do that.
Yeah, and the Colts get one last possession. Oh my gosh, they're driving. Are you kidding me? This is going to go over. It went over, son of a gun. Uncle Dan, what do you play this week? Because 46 looks awfully tempting to go over, but recent history suggests that this is going to be more of a ball control game. How do you play this?
Yeah, I'm probably leaning under again. I haven't had a chance yet to look at my full picks, but that was sick, right? And I tweeted it out at the beginning of the drive. And I said, this is a very important drive for some people. And it was if you had the under. And McDermott takes out all of his starters, and Alec Pierce catches a jump ball over Codrington. Like, of course that hits the over. Like, that was just one of those things. I was sitting next to Thad Brown at the sidelines. It's like, he's like, why are you so nervous? I was like, this is an under. This is a massive drive for me. So, yeah, I'd probably lean under on this one. We talked about it on the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel last night when we did our live show. I see this being like a 2017 game. I just really like the defense that the Chiefs are playing right now. Offensively, they've been worse than the Bills for sure, but they've been very similar of doing just enough. And I know the Bills have scored 30 points in 4 straight games, but they've never faced a defense like this kind of a test. I thought the running game was a little bit shaky against Indianapolis, who has a good defensive line. The Chiefs have an even better one. I think this is kind of a ball control game. And I don't buy that they're going to hold any like cards closer to their vest. Like, you're playing for the 1 seed right now. You worry about teams. These teams will both change They've seen each other enough. I don't think this is really don't show all your cards because you'll face them again in the playoffs. I don't buy that. Just go out there, see what happens. And again, no matter what, you're going to have to lick your wounds one way or another or get off the high horse and probably face each other again in the postseason.
Well, talk about what happens after this game. Win or lose, you're going into a bye week, and we got news this week that Matt Milano is back at practice and what that could potentially mean. And I don't know how you feel about Milano, Dan. I mean, I'm kind of indifferent at this point because I don't know what Matt Milano we're getting back after the bye, assuming that he is back on the field as a starter. And I know that Dorian Williams at times has been great, at times has been a liability. But again, what do we know about Matt Milano and where he is at from a fitness level here heading into the bye week after this weekend?
For a fitness, we'll have to figure out. I thought he looked okay in training camp. I think we sat down at Fisher one of the times, and what did you see? I thought I still was able to see him get out there in the flat, cover some wide receiver screens, do Matt Milano things. The guy that can cover running backs better, as good as anybody in the NFL when he's healthy. Again, he's had the pack, he's had the leg. More than anything, he provides a mental boost. It's an emotional lift to have Matt Milano back on the field. Sean McDermott, we always joke around, if you ask him about a player, he usually groups the entire position, sometimes the entire side of the ball, into his answer. Even if you ask him about Josh, he'll be like, all of our quarterbacks do a really good job. And you're like, all right, I was asking about Josh. When we asked about Matt Milano and what kind of a impact he could have on him, a minute and a half answer yesterday about the resiliency, the team player that he is, the leader that he is, more than anything, and the fact that he's been able to be around more during this rehab has been a huge boost to this team compared to when he broke his leg last year. So his rehab's been around the team. He's traveled with the team. They said that's been a huge lift. So it's cool to have him on the sidelines in a hat and a hoodie. It'll be even a bigger lift when he's back on the field with a helmet on. Where he is physically, we'll still have to wait and see. But no matter what, Matt, I'd still take my chances with 58 on the field.
Dan, last one, and it's just where we are right now. This seems like the perfect time just to take a half second, and whoever wins this game, we just have to realize you don't have to even go back a full decade to see where this Bills franchise was, and now 100% of the country is going to watch this game, and more than likely these two teams will cross paths in the postseason again. It's just remarkable. Say what you want about Bean and McDermott and Allen and everybody else, but this should be we just should just kind of appreciate what has become here in Western New York, kind of a golden age of football.
Gee, that's adorable. You're a sports talk radio host and just said everybody take a breath as the Bills and Chiefs are getting to play. You don't think that this game will be talked about for 2 weeks and overreacted immensely one way or another?
Of course it will.
I couldn't tell if you were doing a bit there.
I think what we're trying to do is just sit back. We're preparing ourselves for the worst case scenario. And if the worst case scenario does happen, Dan, we can always fall back on we're not where we were a decade ago.
Yeah, I think that that's a logical thought. But I don't think a whole lot of fans at times think that way. This is a week-to-week league, and no matter what happens on Sunday at 8 o'clock, it will be either, even if Allen wins, and the Bills win, it will still be, it doesn't matter, it's the regular season. And if the Bills lose, it'll be they just can't get over the Chiefs, even though both of those things aren't true. But that's the narrative.
Hey, what if it's a one-sided affair? What if the Bills throttle the Chiefs? What if that happens? I mean, like, there's scenarios. I think we all kind of see how this plays out because of history. But what if history gets broken here and you see the Bills absolutely demolish the Chiefs?
Well, I think they've demolished them a couple times, at least beat them handily twice in Kansas City over the last 2 weeks, or two out of the last 3 years. I know I was there. And the Bills, when it was Emmanuel Sanders on the team, the Bills were dancing the entire fourth quarter in Arrowhead. And you're like, this is great. Von Miller, it was his first year. He had a sack at the end of the game, and he said they were going to make the plane do backflips on the way home. It doesn't matter. Like, unfortunately, this is another chapter in the story of this rivalry, but it's not going to decide anything. And unfortunately, it won't change the narrative until, like what you guys were just asking me, when can they get over the hump in these kind of scenarios of a regular season game? I get it. It's the biggest game of the year, and that's not because it's the next game. It's the biggest game of the year because it's the 9-0 Chiefs and the 8-2 Bills. That's why this is a massive game. But the ultimate narrative, I don't think, changes all that much.
All right, Dan. So no pausing, no reflecting. Just get ready for this, and then we'll tell us what's going on. Buffalo Plus, 13 Wham, and the Fates Home Improvement Project.
Well, Gene, it's funny. Just one thing. Mike always talks about it. Life in the NFL is win or panic. It's that simple. And you guys do a really good job at both of them. Like this no, like that's an insult. Like that's why you guys are so engaging with your audience in these kind of things in the conversations. Like this is why every single time there's a Bills game, it's great shows because this is what you talk about.
Why is it then crazy just to say don't panic and don't get too high? Just kind of like enjoy where we are here in the month of November, relevant in the NFL.
Yeah, that's great. But there's more. It just is. It's Mahomes and Allen. It's all of these things. It'll be great. I would love for everybody to take a breath. I just don't think that's realistic, unfortunately. And because I'll read my comments, I'll read the tweets on the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel, all of those things. There will be a lot of unhinged things, which is great. That's what fans do. Gene, that's why we're insane baseball fans, and we do it 160 plus times a year.
Well, I guess from that standpoint, do I overreact a little bit? Do you overreact a bit? Well, I know you do.
Yes.
I don't ever overreact.
No, not you, Gene.
Never.
Well, that's why I always find it so funny is that they're surprised at times that I go, I'm not necessarily a Bills fan. I cover the team. I hope they do well. It makes our job more fun. I'm an irrational Braves fan. I would hate to cover the team. I would do a terrible job at covering the team because I would be living and dying after every ninth inning decision. So that's how this works.
How you guys doing there this week with Buffalo Plus? What can we look out for, Dan?
Yeah, if you missed it, we did Wayland Brewing Company. We did our live show out in Orchard Park yesterday. It was great. Had some fans come out. That's up on the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel right now. Mike Jenna are doing the live show, the show that gets taped and airs Sunday morning on Fox. And then I'll have my Uncle Dan's Best Bets up tomorrow.
All right, we look forward to all of that, Dan. Thanks for the time. Back to your home improvement project, buddy.
Thanks for dealing with me, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan.
There's Dan Fates, 13 Web Sports, BuffaloPlus.com. Stopping by the sports bar. We're going to take a break and come back. We'll have Alex Gold from Cody and Gold at our Odyssey Sports sister station, 96.5 The Fan in Kansas City, joining us here in just a couple few.
Yeah, and we got time for your calls, 866-4326, 866-4FAN. We got some takes coming up. No terrible time Timmy takes. But
I don't know. Maybe I'll rifle off a couple.
Was that like a terrible take just to pause and reflect?
I'm trying to understand where Dan is coming from there. And,
yeah.
And maybe this is more me than it is you, but I always kind of like try to manage expectations. Like I feel like if you want to be happy in life, the secret to happiness in life is managing expectations.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do here a little bit.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay, like if you lose to the Chiefs or if you win to the Chiefs, why can't we just say, oh my gosh, we are the center of the sports universe right here and now.
But I also see what Dan is saying, that there are people that are listening to us or that are fans of this team.
Don't want to hear it.
That are just irrational.
Yeah.
They're not going to hear it. All that matters is getting over on Mahomes, getting over on the Chiefs. And if you do it in the regular season, you better damn well do it in the postseason as well, because we've seen that movie before. So I do think it means we can say it doesn't mean anything. Mm-hmm. Like we can make it, set ourselves up for, if they lose, everything will be okay. But let's face it, if they lose, things are not going to be okay on Monday. We're going to be critical we'll analyze everything.
Look, and I think it's much more interesting if you're giving a sports opinion. Somebody says, no, come on, you're crazy. What are you talking about?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So with the spirit of that, some terrible takes coming up.
Terrible takes here in the sports bar.
In honor of Terrible Take Timmy, who is here in the sports bar as well. We got that coming up along with Alex Gold. And as Gino mentioned, your phone calls are always welcome. 585-866-4FAN. 866-4326.
92.2 Rochester. And streaming online and in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
The Bills injury report is out, not practicing today. Spencer Brown once again. Also Dalton Kincaid. We already knew that King Coleman is out for this game. Amari Cooper today was limited. Taron Johnson on the challenge going up against Travis Kelce.
I mean, he's a very, very good player. When you got, he's been playing with Patrick Mahomes for a while, and their chemistry is undeniable. So just making sure that we can affect that chemistry, you know what I'm saying, with either the rush or how we're playing Kelce, just making sure that we can disrupt that.
Alex Gold, 96.5, The Fan in Kansas City, to join us later this hour. Week 11 of the NFL season begins tonight. Decent game, Washington in Philadelphia. Also tonight, we've got Sabres hockey. St. Louis is the opponent. Devin Levi to get the start and goal. UPI and Tage Thompson not in the lineup, both day-to-day. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Chiefs at Bills on Sunday is the best game
this week.
Duh.
For us, it's just week 11 for us.
No, it's not. It's a lot more important than that.
What do you want me to say if we get to our 9th win?
I'm going with Kansas City plus the points. This team is just finding every which way to win games. And until somebody can beat them, I can't bet against them.
I think it's going to be extremely close. I do think the Chiefs, they're on a roll. I do think they find a way to win, whether it's 1 point or 2 points, a butter kick at the end of the game. I kind of think that'll happen, so I do think they'll come away with the win. But if there's one loss in the Chiefs' schedule, I 100% would say the Buffalo Bills.
Terrible take, Timmy.
Mike Danger.
That's the team that you're going to have to get over on. That's the team that you're going to have to beat if you want your ultimate goal of getting to the Super Bowl.
Gene Battaglia.
Let people sleep on Buffalo. Let the public continue to bet against Buffalo. Maybe people are just kind of tired of the Buffalo storyline.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan. Rochester.
Welcome back into the Sports Bar. It's Danger and Battaglia. Glad you're with us. The NFL. Week 11 gets underway tonight. Good game tonight, too. Eagles and Commanders. I mean, sign me up.
This used to be Color Rush Thursday. Oh, great. We get the Jaguars and the Titans. Well, last week, wow, we got Ravens and Bengals. That was a lot of fun. And
great game.
Yeah, I think tonight you get Jaden Daniels and Jalen Hurts, and all of a sudden Philadelphia quietly is starting to figure this out. Maybe Hurts doesn't like his head coach, but they're winning games, and if they win tonight, hard for me to imagine that they're going to look back and fall apart like the way they did last year.
Yeah, that would be a development if it were to happen again this season the way it happened last season. But they feel like they're playing their best ball at the right time of year. And when you look at the kind of like the NFC as a whole, I would sign up for an Eagles-Lions NFC Championship game. That would be a lot of fun.
I'm curious what Green Bay is all about. I mean, they've been banged up. Jordan
Green
Love
Bay sucks. We know that. Everybody knows that.
No, they don't, Danger. No, they don't. Some might say Arizona winning the West there. Oh, and the 49ers. Boy, the 49ers feel, don't they do this all the time? They'll be like the 6 or 7.
Yeah, just farting around.
Yeah, farting around.
Yeah.
And, here we are. Ta-da. If you kind of forgot, the Chiefs are going to bring the number one fan. At least that's what we think this week. Some Chiefs podcaster got more than what he expected this week. When it was pointed out that Taylor Swift by his co-host would be in attendance this week in Buffalo, again, we don't know that for sure. Cam Stewart is the name of the podcaster, said that no one cares and we should just throw her in the falls.
What?
Yeah, throw Taylor Swift over
Straight
Niagara Falls.
to prison. That's uncalled for.
Here come the Swifties in 3, 2, 1, and always go to the comments section. Cam Stewart live, you're a vile slob. Cam, you don't know Tay voodoo. That's karma that's about to hit bad. I hope you're ready for it. Buddy, there are more powerful and more ruthless than Chiefs fans, these Swifties. They're about to unleash hell on your life. Big, big mistake.
All right, so this was a Chiefs podcaster who's fed up with Taylor Swift.
Right.
Not a Bills podcaster, a Chiefs podcaster.
Chiefs, same.
Just tired of the whole Taylor Swift circus that comes with her being aligned with the team.
Why? Why? If you're winning games and everything is good, what is it that you care? These are first world problems, right?
I saw a T-shirt in my travels through the Midwest, and it said it was like a customized shirt, but it said fan of Taylor's boyfriend or something like that, and it was a picture of Kelsey. It's like, okay, yeah, I know somewhat what this podcaster is going. I'm just saying, like, he's not wrong. They're not wrong. The Swifties in the comment section aren't wrong. Big mistake to go after Taylor Swift.
Yeah, and look, be a mistake for me to say, Mike Danger, what did Taylor Swift's people do to you? These are just Swifties. It was her people. I would invite everybody out to Three Heads Brewing on November 22nd.
I'll share that story. Yeah, I'll share that story. And we're getting to a point where I might be okay. The statute of limitations might be okay for me to just tell the story.
I'm not an attorney, but as your advisor, I'm not.
You'd say no?
No.
Well, the thing is like, I would say in my defense that what I did that angered the Swifties, we didn't really anger the Swifties as much as it angered Taylor's people.
No, the Swifties loved you.
The Swifties were fine. I was fine with the Swifties.
Yeah.
But it was her people that had an issue with what I had done. I can share that story. At some point I'll share that story on there. Yeah, so let's go ahead and lump that in as like a terrible take. Like, let's go ahead and throw Taylor Swift into the falls. Not a great take.
No,
not a great take.
We don't advise that at all.
And I want to thank our buddy Terrible Time Timmy for coming in the last couple of days and hanging out here in the sports bar while I was enjoying my time in Chicago, a couple days off. But he became Terrible Take Timmy in the sports bar with his Taron Johnson take. Horrible take, right? What was his take that Taron Johnson?
Taron Johnson,
just average.
Yeah,
average,
like,
just an average player.
You know, he had a good day. He's average. Like, I'm like, whoa, stop, full stop. And I thought he would just kind of back off. No, he doubled down, and then all of a sudden, anybody.
I mean, at worst, you would say he's top 3 at his position in the NFL. At worst, right? He's a top 3 nickel corner in the NFL.
You have to recognize what he means also to the picture of that Bills defense, how they employ him in the box against the run, covering a tight end. You're like, how are they going to use him this week? You would assume Travis Kelce, maybe not. I don't know.
In the spirit of Terrible Take Timmy sharing that thought yesterday on the air, let's invite some more terrible takes into the sports bar. Feel free. You can join in at 866-4326. I mean, we all remember the terrible take. We actually have nominated, ironically, as Take of the Year nominee earlier from one of our frequent guests, Hot Take Hickey.
Trading Josh Allen for the number 1 overall pick here does a few things. Number one, it allows you the opportunity here in trading him to the Bears specifically and getting the number 1 overall pick. It allows you to get a quarterback that could be as good or even better than Allen is right now. I mean, you look at the scouting reports for Caleb Williams, I'm all in on the hype. I think he is going to, honestly give Mahomes a run for his money in 5 years for being the best quarterback in the NFL. You reset your timeline, by the way, because right now you are in a Super Bowl or bust mode. Even though you're not a Super Bowl caliber team, it is still right now Buffalo, Josh Allen, Super Bowl or bust. Well, now you get a rookie quarterback in, your timeline resets. Now, all of a sudden, you're afforded maybe a year or two to reset your cap and now start to make improvements to your roster that you really can't afford to do right now because every year you're going for it. You move off of Josh Allen's massive contract and now start to dig your way out of the cap hell you're in.
Hasn't aged well, but he would still stand by that take today. I bet you he would. He would still stand by it. But guys, I was right. I mean, I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know. No, Caleb Williams would have been fine in Buffalo, and Josh Allen would be fine in Chicago. That's all I would say. That's bad. Are we going to, like when we do Take of the Year, we can't do, worst Take of the Year. I can't imagine there being a worse take than that.
Well, I mean, there's so many. I mean, you just, how about the Sabres? Maybe the Sabres should tank a season for a high draft pick. What do you say, Gino?
Is there a presumptive number 1 overall pick? Honestly, I don't know the answer to that.
Math is fun. Yeah, I remember everything that I learned from algebra. Terrible takes. Beets are delicious. I mean, just the other night, Gino, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to eat the out of some beets. Micah Hyde's the best option for the Bills secondary, along with Josh Norman. NFL football, overhyped and boring. Don't like it. Dog people, am I right? I mean, who likes dogs? Ugh. Just some terrible takes. I'm surprised Timmy didn't utter any of those out while he was filling in the last couple of days.
Who drinks beer?
Beer?
Yeah.
Ugh. Oh, one of our coworkers had an IPA take the other day. I'm like, you're out of your mind. I don't get IPAs. I don't want. Why would I drink? Maybe she's not a regular IPA drinker, but just anti-IPA. I'm like, well, I guess to each their own, but that's a terrible take.
That's my father-in-law. Like, he has to have like the light beer, which
I'll
fine.
say this about IPAs. They're not all great. Not all of them are great. Like, some of them taste like my lawnmower deck. But for the most part, yeah, a good IPA is delicious. I'll take a good IPA with a high ABV.
Happy holidays.
Yeah, thank you.
It's coming up.
Absolutely.
Those are all terrible. I don't even know if I can like rescue one of those takes other than math is fun. I remember everything. The purpose of math, Danger, is to get your brain thinking in a different way for problem solving, is it not?
Problem solving.
Yes. That's
it's
it.
problem
Yeah,
solving.
problem solving.
I still don't remember a damn thing from algebra. Couldn't tell you. If my daughter asked me for help with her algebra homework, I'm like, Google that. I don't know. I have no idea.
Do you remember geometry? Do you know what an isosceles triangle is?
That's 2 sides longer than the third.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Equilateral, 2 lines, right?
Yeah.
Laterally across. Yeah, I remember some stuff from geometry.
See, okay.
Shapes and whatnot, but no.
Mike Danger knows his shapes.
No, I
Colors
do.
coming up tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow we can quiz me on colors. And for my final, I'll recite the alphabet.
Those are all. Anybody that has any bad takes, the fan Rochester is our handle. This is a thing I find amusing. You know, when a program's like, we're so much better than this conference. We won out. Wah, wah. No, nobody would have this team. 6 players. We're up to 6 that have decommitted from Florida State from next year, including the guy they wanted to play quarterback. Florida State 13-1 last year, boasting about wanting to leave the ACC. Now Florida State at 1-9. When we talk about comps in sports, I don't know what the comp is to this. This is unbelievable how you can go off a cliff like this. There's only one thing they could do. Fire Mike Norvell now. Fire him. Coach Prime in Florida State. I don't know why there isn't more people clamoring for this. I know a lot of people want Deion Sanders with the Cowboys. But no, college is where he belongs, and that's where he belongs in college. Let's be honest, Colorado, only a stepping stone.
Well, I think it's funny if this season ends the way you think it's going to end for Colorado, where they're playing for a Big 12 title.
Do they get in and all of a sudden?
Yeah. I mean, like now Coach Prime has that cachet again, right? We were beginning of this season, we're like, we'll see how it goes. But pretty good season for the Buffs. And Shador and Hunter are going to go high in the draft. And I guess if you're Coach Prime, who said, I don't want to coach in the pros, I'm never going to coach in the pros, I think he'll have options. Let's just put it that way. I think if it goes the way we think it'll go for Colorado, that when the college football season is over, he will have options, including potentially Florida State or Dallas.
Here's the thing I'm fuzzy on, and help me on this, because the way we all picture what the timeline is in the pros. Hey, the season's over, everyone gets fired, the Black Monday, and all of a sudden we're interviewing everybody. Okay. Well, what's the timeline for this sort of thing now with the new college football playoff and your team is actually in said college football playoff? You will have teams like Florida State. They're not going to any bowl game. Are you kidding me? Their season's done at Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Norvell will get fired. Are they going to wait? I think they would have to wait, right? Like, if they're going to make that move, they would have to wait until mid-January until, like you mentioned, if Deion's going to explore, well, then that's going to line up where he can interview for NFL jobs, too, if he wanted to.
Yeah, he'll have options. I think he will have options. That's interesting. Also, if anybody that is a decision maker at Florida State is interested, I took this team to a national title in NCAA 25. So, my phone line is open. You can reach out to me. I could have gotten more out of this talent than Norvell did. Certainly, at minimum, one national championship, multiple in my dynasty. So, let's get to Alex Gold. Cody and Gold is a show you can hear weekday afternoons, weekday mornings. 96.5, The Fan in Kansas City, our Odyssey Sports sister station. We'll get the latest out of Arrowhead, the latest out of Kansas City as they prepare to come to Buffalo to take on the Bills. Alex Gold next on The Fan.
You're listening to the Sports Bar. Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
This week, it's a Week 11 game. It's no bigger and no less than the last 10 games that we've had, and that's, I know the media perception and the fan perception and what this game means, but for us, it's just Week 11 for us. Typically when guys, they get here and every game is the biggest game, and which is the way that we approach it. Every game is the biggest game because it's the next one. But again, I know we haven't beat them in the playoffs, so that's the only thing that kind of matters.
Yeah, it's Josh Allen. It's just another game. It's Week 11. Alex Gold, co-host of Cody and Gold. You can hear Alex on 96.5, The Fan in Kansas City, our Odyssey Sports sister station in the free-to-download Odyssey app. Alex, thanks for joining us. Just another game. No big deal. Just Bills and Chiefs, Alex.
Yeah, no big deal. I mean, we have done this a lot over the last 5 years or so. What is this, the 8th matchup in the last 5-6 years or so? But, no, of course, this has major implications for both sides. You got an undefeated team coming in, and you also have a number one seed race that gets way more interesting if the Bills win this thing on Sunday.
Well, say it doesn't go Buffalo's way, and now all of a sudden, not only is the coast clear for you to get that number one seed, is there any talk in Kansas City about an undefeated season, Alex?
Definitely been talk about it. I've been a little hesitant. I've said, hey, if they can get through Buffalo, then I'll really have a real conversation about it, because then I think it absolutely is in play if they can get a win. You know, they got Carolina after that. They'll play the Chargers one more time, the Broncos one more time, but they also have Cleveland and the Raiders on the schedule, Pittsburgh, Houston. I mean, there's still some big-time games as well, but I think if you get to 10-0 in the NFL and then Carolina, so let's call it 11-0, I think you absolutely have to have that conversation. But more importantly, folks here are, wanting to wrap this number one seed up, honestly, and the feeling is if they go to Buffalo and they get a win there, then with tiebreakers, they pretty much have 3-4 game leads on just about everybody with tiebreakers, and the one seed is done.
So, Alex, when you talk about them being undefeated, I think a lot of people would look at Kansas City and be like, well, they don't look like the same Chiefs. They don't look like they do anything really well. How have they gotten to this point? Because the conspiracy theorists out there would, of course, say, it's all rigged. It's all Kansas City, and everybody loves Mahomes, and the NFL is just rigged. I mean, what are you seeing that makes this team special this season?
Yeah, there's no question. We have some fun with the conspiracy stuff that gets thrown out there at times around this football team over the last couple of years. But you're right. I mean, this is not the same team that maybe you saw in 2022 and scoring 34 points a game and high flying. We know that wasn't the case last year. And I don't think they're all that different from a year ago in terms of how they're winning. People don't take the Steelers seriously because it's Russell Wilson, but the Chiefs and Steelers guys are winning in like the identical way. They're going to play really strong defense, and they're going to make the key play when they have to. And obviously the Chiefs have done that in every single game. That's why they're undefeated, even if we're talking about a field goal getting blocked against the Denver Broncos. I mean, Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, what can't be replicated with them is the fact that they make the crucial play when they have to have it. I mean, there's plenty of games in which Mahomes isn't sharp, throw a pick, or defensively they make a mistake, but they make that one play. You know that you're going to get that one play that you have to have. We saw that in the Bucs Monday night game a couple weeks ago as well. And so, how are they doing it? It's great defense again. The offense is just making the one play that they have to make. And at some point, everybody thinks it's going to come back to bite them. But we've been saying this all year, and we certainly have been saying that even going back to last year, that, hey, the wide receiver room, not good enough, can't do it, can't go on the road in the playoffs, can't do it. And time again, they obviously have been proving people wrong.
Alex Gold, co-host Cody and Gold, 96.5, The Fan in Kansas City, our guest. This Bills-Chiefs series usually lives up to the billing in terms of, all right, it's going to be a close game, but why the dichotomy, Alex? With the exception of the one Monday game in the pandemic where nobody could go to, the Bills have won in the regular season. The Chiefs have won when it matters the most here. Why do you think there is that sort of split here when we see Buffalo taking these games? And yes, they did get a little bit of help from Kadarius Toney last year, but any thoughts as to why that kind of plays out this way?
Chiefs fans are thrilled Kadarius Toney is not involved in this game on Sunday. I can promise you that. I mean, it's a great question because the regular season definitely has leaned towards Buffalo, and ultimately the postseason has. And I think there's a couple things. It's not as if Josh Allen and the Bills, don't understand the stakes and anything like that. I think it somewhat goes back to while Josh Allen to me is the number 2 quarterback in the NFL, when you're the best in the NFL, and that is Patrick Mahomes, and I think it's been pretty evident now for multiple years that that's the case, that quarterback, much like with Tom Brady, is going to, as I just said, make the one play that you have to have. And Andy Reid, not that Sean McDermott is this terrible coach or anything like that. I think he's absolutely a top 10 coach in this league. But when you have the best coach maybe of all time and going up head-to-head, those little margins matter when you're talking about close games in the postseason. You can't make maybe the mistake that you can have. And there's some belief among fans here that the Chiefs hold stuff back, not in terms of like trying to win the game per se, but different looks. And Andy Reid is probably the best at doing that in terms of individual play design. And that, if you're Travis Kelce and you're Mahomes, I mean, Kelce had admitted in the past that sometimes, they're kind of just waiting it out till the postseason, and that they kind of get bored or complacent with the regular season. And so I think that's part of it. And that's not, as I said, to say that Josh Allen and the Bills don't obviously want to win these games. I just think the Chiefs, now having gone and played, 20 games a year almost, it seems like every year during this stretch, that they're kind of willing to pace themselves a little bit, and they know the ultimate prize, and there's a switch that is flipped for them come playoff time.
Alex, talk a little bit about the Chiefs' attention to detail. I saw the stat that they are the least penalized team for pre-snap penalties. You mentioned the blocked field goal against Denver. I don't think that was by accident or lucky. That was knowing we have a guy that we can exploit on this Denver line, that if we blow him up, we're blocking that kick. You have Andy Reid, who you mentioned could be one of the greatest coaches of all time, if not the greatest coach of all time. You have 2 other guys who could be head coaches in the NFL, in Spagnuolo and in Matt Nagy. Talk about just the experience there and the overall level of attention to detail that the Chiefs have. That might be that thing that differentiates them from every other team in the NFL.
I think you hit on a couple points right there that are absolutely true, and that is the consistency in the organization. I mean, when you have from top down, you have your general manager has been there since the beginning of this run in Brett Veach, and you have a defensive coordinator in Steve Spagnuolo who's been there since after that 2018 season, hasn't gotten a job elsewhere, even though some people think he maybe should get another head coaching gig. The OC spots changed a little bit, whether it's Bieniemy, Nagy, Peterson, but the one constant, the ultimate play caller, the guy actually calling the plays, Andy Reid, is there. And this is why, we actually got into this on our show today locally, and that is why I'm always going to side with an offensive-minded head coach, because even if you lose an OC, that's all right. You're going to be fine. I would never want personally a defensive-minded head coach, especially with a young quarterback. And I think there's something to be said for having the same OC and the same personnel for the most part around in an organization. And there's just the belief that, like, there's something you said when you're so confident that you're going to win a football game. Everybody believes they're going to win going in. I'm sure, of course, Josh Allen and the Bills believe they're winning this game on Sunday. It's one thing to believe, it's another when, like, you know you're going to win, as in you're undefeated in this case this season. And I think that is a huge thing to have in the back of your mind, that you know that this is a team that you've had success with or success against in the playoffs. And this season, even when you shouldn't win a game, and you reference the block kick, like when you win on a block like that, like, how do you not feel like you're unbeatable? And I think there's a huge mental edge to that.
Alex, how do the Bills go about attacking this Chiefs defense? Because we look on paper, we look at the 9-0 record, and I'm just wondering, all right, where does this Chiefs defense compare this year to in years past? Could this be perhaps potentially the best version we've seen so far?
So I think there's 2 areas. One is going to be the opposite corner spot of Trent McDuffie. So McDuffie's one of the best in the league. Last week, everybody was freaking out here because Cortland Sutton got him for 70 yards. You would have thought, Jamar Chase put up 180 on him or something. It was 70 yards, and everybody thought it was terrible for McDuffie. That was his worst performance as a pro. So I don't think McDuffie's going to be had, whether he's matched up with Amari Cooper or not. I think the question and where you could exploit would be on the other side. Najee Johnson is a young corner for Kansas City. They got a lot of youth back there, and he's been a guy that there's some opportunities to go after. Josh Williams, the other. And so I think staying away from McDuffie, can any of these other receivers, and I know Keon Coleman's not playing, can anybody else step up? Can a Khalil Shakur find the end zone and not just have the yardage that he's had this year. I think it'll take something like that. I think also the tight end position has been a huge problem for Kansas City matching up. Hasn't cost them a game, but will it in the red zone at some point? They haven't given up touchdowns to tight ends, but the yardage is all over the place, whether it's a Cade Otton type, whether it was earlier on the season to Brock Bowers, even Isaiah Likely in Baltimore back in week 1. The tight end position, the Chiefs linebackers have really struggled in coverage. So if Joe Brady and the Bills there can get some mismatches and get Nick Bolton out in coverage, I think that's an area where Dalton Kincaid, pending his injury status, or even a Dawson Knox could have their way. Those would be two areas. I don't think it's going to be necessarily James Cook on the ground because the Chiefs have been so good. In fact, 53 yards, I believe, is the high watermark for a back against Kansas City. But maybe James Cook in the passing game, where we saw that play out last year in a couple of the meetings.
Alex, what about the skill position players for the Chiefs? Because you have all these injuries through the course of the season, and Kelsey, starts the season slow, and I think a lot of people just kind of say, well, he came into the season out of shape. He lived his best life with Taylor Swift over the course of the summer, and God bless him. He looks like he's returned to form. But you replace Pacheco, who may be coming back here by season's end, with Kareem Hunt, and it doesn't feel like you've really missed a beat. You replace Rice with Nuke, and he looks like he's been reborn. I mean, these skill position players for Kansas City, talk about their performance here as they've kind of like stepped into these new roles.
Well, what you said there about the two additions, that two guys that weren't on the team, really three guys that weren't on the team back in week 1, Kareem Hunt, DeAndre Hopkins, and I'll throw Juju Smith-Schuster in the mix. Looks like he's going to be back and available for them. He's had one really strong game for them against New Orleans, over 100 yards. After that, the numbers aren't all that impressive. But now that they enter this game, other than Pacheco, I think it's their best, since week 1 when they had a healthy Rashee Rice, who, of course, is done for the season. I think they're better positioned this week than they have been for those skill position players. DeAndre Hopkins, I think this is kind of a game that is prime for him to potentially go off. Now, whether that leads to a victory, I don't know. But I think lining him up in the slot and work in the middle of the field is an area the Chiefs can have quite a bit of success on Sunday. Whereas Juju Smith-Schuster, when he's not asked to be your number 1 or number 2, which is what he was asked to be prior to D-Hop arriving, if he's your 3rd or 4th receiving option, I kind of like that. That's not a bad thing to have him in that role. Can he get you 45 yards in this game, 3 or 4 catches to move the chains? I think that's all you're looking for. And as far as Kareem Hunt, I mean, he's been unbelievable off the street. He's been as good as any back really the last 4 or 5 weeks. The question here all week has been, is he hit a wall? Have they worn him out too much? With Isaiah Pacheco hopefully back soon, you look at the carries. I mean, he's basically averaging 24 carries a game. The yardage and yards per carry numbers aren't impressive, but he has over 100 yards from scrimmage the last 2 weeks. And so I think his involvement is going to have to be in the receiving game a little bit as well. The Broncos last week did the best job anybody's really done against Kareem Hunt in terms of really limiting him on the ground. He kind of got him through the air. But fans here, and including myself, just from a media perspective, I think they're the best position skill-wise heading into this one than they've been since week 1.
Interesting. Alex, as far as this rivalry, and I'll call it that, my gosh, they play 3rd time in 11 months here, but the way kind of people here view Kansas City is a little bit of Chiefs fatigue, almost like, all right, like the Patriots, year after year, this would kind of go through it. Who's the top rival of Kansas City now? I know you probably have the longtime hate for the Raiders and the Broncos, but they're not anywhere close in that level. Is it still Cincinnati? Where does Buffalo fit in? What's the pecking order right now in Kansas City?
I think Chiefs fans may not fully admit it because they see Cincinnati at 4-6. But it's still Cincinnati because Joe Burrow, of course, was able to beat them in the AFC title game, and so fans still look at that as, hey, that's the one time that they've been prevented, other than from Tom Brady, to get to a Super Bowl. And the Bengals talk a lot of trash. I think there's more of a respect factor with Buffalo, whether it's the fan base, the way Josh Allen goes about his business. There seems to be more respect there, whereas with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, Jamar Chase is out here prior to week 1 saying they're the team to beat in the AFC. The way he just approaches things has rubbed people the wrong way. A couple of years ago, you had the Burrowhead comments about Arrowhead. So I think there hasn't been those kind of comments out of the Buffalo side, and obviously the playoff success hasn't been there. So I don't think it's Buffalo. There's almost too much respect there. So it's Cincinnati. That's where the hate really lies, even though this year I just don't think Cincinnati is a factor. I really don't believe they're going to make the playoffs. I think there's a chance that they end up missing it altogether. So, that might change the long-term view of the rivalry. But Buffalo, it's more of a respect thing and everybody acknowledging that, Josh Allen's playing his best football when these teams match up. We know neither team is going to win, I think, by 7 or more in these games. These are going to be 3-4 point or less margins.
Well, Alex, I'm sure you've heard this, that Sunday's game will be the 15th time that the Chiefs have been underdogs with Mahomes as a starter. The Chiefs are 11-3 straight up, 12-1-1 against the spread. I know that they've failed here in recent weeks to cover. They've lost 3 straight now against the spread, dropping their against the spread winning percentage here to .404 late in the season since 2018. The Jets are the only team that are worse after Week 7 for the last 7 seasons than the Kansas City Chiefs late in the season. How do you see this all playing out on Sunday? You mentioned you think it'll be a close game. Which side gets the better of the other?
Right. And to your point about the spread, that's why, teasers the last couple of weeks is what I've been talking about, teasing Kansas City down. And that's why you've been able to still cash some bets, because otherwise, you've been losing money just taking Kansas City on the spread. The numbers have been too big. They were underdog one other time this season. That was against the Niners on the road. The Kansas City won that game by 10. I don't think they're winning this game by 10, but I've got 3 bets on this game. One is Kansas City plus 2.5. One is Kansas City money line, and one is teasing the Chiefs up to where they're 8.5-point dogs and pair them up with, the Texans maybe on Monday night against the Cowboys, and then you tease the Texans down to 1.5. So, I think Buffalo can absolutely win this game. I just don't think it's going to be by a wide margin whatsoever. The key in this one is going to be, can Kansas City run the ball, as I was mentioning with Kareem Hunt? And then can Kansas City force Josh Allen to do something that he hasn't done much this year? And that, of course, make the red zone mistake. We've seen that in the history of this rivalry sometimes flare up in the playoffs or something like that, but not this year. I don't have to tell you guys how well Josh Allen is playing. He's playing great. So can Kansas City confuse him at all and maybe put some pressure to where in the red zone he makes that one mistake? If he does, I think the Chiefs win.
Last one for me, Alex, and it's about the MVP race because, look, Mahomes hasn't played, at least to his standard. I think we all can kind of agree. And when we're talking about MVPs, he's not really entering the conversation. But if the Chiefs keep winning, to me, the MVP is, let's look at the top seed, who's the quarterback. Congratulations, Lamar Jackson, you win the award. So how do you handicap the MVP race right now, knowing also that, all right, Josh Allen hasn't won this thing yet. If he gets this one against Kansas City, how do you view here the odds entering Week 11?
So full disclosure, I bet Josh Allen MVP preseason at 7 or 8 to 1 before this thing started, and I did not bet on Patrick Mahomes. I didn't like the narrative kind of going into the season. I thought the narrative was on the side of Josh Allen because he lost to Stephon Diggs, and now he has a chance to elevate some players. And then here we are; they're going to run away with the AFC East, which helps. I said on my betting show here locally that I do yesterday that I think if the Chiefs lose, then MVP, in my opinion, is done for Mahomes, and Coach of the Year for Andy Reid is done. Both of them have been propped up because they're undefeated. Mahomes is right there, third in odds. Andy Reid is 6.5 to 1 on a couple books. And I think if the Chiefs were to lose, both those tank. I think Andy goes back to like 15 to 1 and has no chance to win. And Mahomes, I think, would slide back considerably. Now, on the flip side, if they both win, then obviously the same thing continues. That if you're not going to lose a football game, you're going to win both awards. I mean, if the Chiefs go 17-0, Mahomes will end up winning MVP. I don't care what Lamar Jackson does.
It's funny, Alex. Last Tuesday, a lot of people were following along to see who was going to be the next leader of our country, and I was following along to see if Missouri was going to come on board with the legalized sports wagering. You were doing a great job counting those ballots and keeping us all updated, Alex. And congratulations on now legalized sports wagering. When does that all get underway there in Missouri?
Right. So for those that aren't familiar with the area, on the Kansas side of Kansas City, you can bet for the last couple of years. Missouri side, where Arrowhead and the Chiefs play, where the Royals play at Kauffman Stadium, has not been legal. The launch date, summer, I think by next football season is a safe bet. There's some talk maybe by March Madness, but definitely by 2025 fall, folks on both sides of the state line here will be able to wager. And it's a big deal to have potentially for the Chiefs. And while they're trying to get a new stadium right now, so are the Royals. Will they stay in Kansas or Missouri? That's a huge conversation here. Sports betting being legalized is one other option that may keep them where they're at.
Yeah, it's certainly, you can check Alex on the Infinity Sports Network while I'm getting up on a Saturday morning. Love your takes here. Any winners for us in college football? I don't know if you looked that far ahead this weekend here, Alex.
I don't have a college football bet off the top of my head. I do not, unfortunately for you. That'll be something. I haven't done much prep. I'm on the show this Saturday. My twin sister's getting married, so I'm off this weekend. Yeah, I got a wedding this weekend, so I'm a little checked out, admittedly, on the college football slate.
All right, Alex. Well, we appreciate you making some time for us here to preview Bills and Chiefs on Sunday. We'll be listening for you and Cody on the Odyssey app there at 96.5 The Fan in Kansas City. Appreciate the time, bud.
Hey, thank you, guys.
Thanks, Alex.
Gold. Cody and Gold on our Odyssey Sports sister station.
He's a Kansas City native. Scheduling the wedding during football season.
Oh, it's the Allstate commercial. It's mayhem. Like, I'm your best man who's overly obsessed with football. What could go wrong? Everything will go wrong. Yeah.
It's your twin sister. You got to turn off the phone. Gosh, I shouldn't have put him on the spot like that. But how did I know? Yeah,
it's fine. What do you say? What can you do?
Yeah,
it's family. Family comes first, right? Always. Although, if you really care, don't schedule your wedding on a Sunday during the football season. A Saturday during the football season?
No, even still.
Appreciate Alex breaking it down for us there. He, like many, predicting that this will be a closely contested game. The Bills and the Chiefs. You'll be able to hear the action on the Fan Rochester, your home for Buffalo Bills football. Our pregame coverage gets underway at noon coming up on Sunday.
Yeah, fantastic. We got time in happy hour for your calls, 866-4326, 866-4FAN. Fun show here, but we got more coming up in the 5 o'clock hour.
You're listening to the 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
Well, this just in. Chiefs kicker Harrison Butker will be going on IR. He has a left knee injury, so Kansas City is going to sign a kicker off the Jets practice squad named Spencer Schrader. Now, for the Bills not practicing today, Spencer Brown and Dalton Kincaid, Amari Cooper was limited. Josh Allen on that Chiefs run defense.
They're smart football players. I think Spags dials up really good pressures in run situations. But I guess, it comes down to the Jimmies and Joes, the guys that they got in that front in their linebacker core. They play extremely hard. They play to the whistle. It's a very, very well-coached group.
Bills and Chiefs, our coverage begin at noon on Sunday. Tonight, Week 11, beginning with Washington and Philadelphia. Sabres hockey tonight as well. The Blues, the opponent Devin Levi to get the starting goal, not playing tonight, not dressing Tage Thompson and UPL. Gene Battaglia and the sports leader, the Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Chiefs at Bills on Sunday is the best game
This week.
Duh.
For us, it's just Week 11 for us.
No, it's not. It's a lot more important than that.
What do you want me to say if we get to our 9th win?
I'm going with Kansas City plus the points. This team is just finding every which way to win games. And until somebody can beat them, I can't bet against them.
I think it's going to be extremely close. I do think the Chiefs, they're on a roll. I do think they find a way to win, whether it's 1 point or 2 points, a Butker kick at the end of the game. I kind of think that'll happen, so I do think they'll come away with the win. But if there's one loss in the Chiefs' schedule, I 100% would say the Buffalo Bills.
Terrible take, Timmy.
Mike Danger.
That's the team that you're going to have to get over on. That's the team that you're going to have to beat if you want your ultimate goal of getting to the Super Bowl.
Gene Battaglia.
Let people sleep on Buffalo. Let the public continue to bet against Buffalo. Maybe people are just kind of tired of the Buffalo storyline.
95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Hey, I want to go back to something you mentioned in your update because I don't think it's a zero. Harrison Butker out on IR.
Yeah, this must have happened during practice. Tom Pelissaro reporting this, and so we'll have some unknown guy off the practice squad of the Jets kicking. That's big, because if you had to say, entering this week, who's the best kicking duo, meaning place kicker and punter in the league, point to somebody, a team that's better than Kansas City. And granted, one of those was a Buffalo guy, right? But,
right.
Yeah, but the punt god and Butker, Butker is as money as anybody in this league. And now that's not a nothing too, Danger. You're going on IR, and then you've got to recover from IR. And with a knee injury, can you just kind of pick up and make kicks again?
If you're doing the exercise of comparing these two teams, I would listen to the Chiefs maybe have a better coaching staff than the Buffalo Bills. I would listen to that. I would listen to Josh Allen right now is a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes. I would listen to that. This is one, knowing that Butker is not going to be there, where you could say, hey, Tyler Bass is actually an advantage now, provided he plays the way you all expect him to play, right? Like, how much of that loss in the postseason last year is weighing on Bass? How much will that be conjured up in this matchup come Sunday afternoon? But that is not a nothing that Harrison Butker won't be out there. That gives the Bills a special teams advantage that before you could say at minimum was a level playing field, maybe even slightly more advantageous to the Chiefs with Butker being in the lineup. I think that's big. In a game that could come down to the leg of a kicker, I'll take Tyler Bass knowing that Butker is out.
Butker this season, 18 of 20, 90% on field goals, 21 of 22 on PATs, and it's arthroscopic surgery, so who knows if he'll be ready to go in 4 weeks here, but he's out 4 weeks by going on IR. So, yeah, that was it's unexpected. You don't want to root for injury, though.
No.
You want to beat these guys at full strength.
Right, exactly. You don't want any excuses. I mean, I don't think it'll happen, but wouldn't it be something if it was a one-sided affair in either direction? Like, I think if you're trying to prepare and think about what the world looks like on Monday or even Sunday night when the game is over, every outcome we think of is that's going to be a close game. It could come down to a field goal.
You brought up something, too, and I'm wondering, and I'm not being Homer man, But couldn't you see a scenario where you get a takeaway, a quick score, and maybe another quick score, and all of a sudden the shout song's playing again, do, and it just becomes a long party, and the Chiefs are like, you know what? We'll see in January.
Yeah, I don't know that I see it that way, but man, even if they were like, what point of the game on Sunday, if the Bills did get off to a big start, if it's, let's say it's 14-0 early, you're not comfortable.
No.
Let's say it's 21-7. You're not comfortable. You're not comfortable with a 14-point lead at any point in this game. Fourth quarter, and you're up by 2 scores. Are you really comfortable? We're damaged. We're damaged goods, man. We're mentally destroyed by this team.
Look, the parallel's there, okay? This is the new version of the Patriots, okay? Here is Tom Brady, and they're going to figure out a way, and they kind of own you. And, okay, every once in a while you'll win a game. There's Sam Adams. That's really cute running down the sideline. Yeah, like the Chiefs are that team, and the Bills, it would just be nice to finally get these guys at home and win at home. I mean, the last quarterback to beat Kansas City and Buffalo was actually Ryan Fitzpatrick. It's like, now, granted, the Chiefs were as down and out as before, holding patiently over 15 minutes because we went to the commercial break. Luke in Rochester, you can join us, 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Hi, Luke.
Hey, guys. Man, I love you guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Listen, Alex, he had clear, cogent, conventional kind of thinking, all right? And you guys just reported that Butker is going to be out, which will, I agree, be a critical problem for them. But even aside from that, Mahomes has not been playing well for 2 years, all right? They've had a pretty good team and coaching, and they still win. I mean, they lucked out the other day with the blocked field goal. No. But they kind of remind me of the Pittsburgh Steelers a few years ago when they were 10-0, and like they proceeded to lose 5 out of 6 games. And you guys alluded to it a minute ago, which surprised me, that Allen has been outplaying Mahomes, but nobody wants to really talk about that. The Bills' defense is somewhat healthy, even though Milano's not in it. Far healthier than last year. Last year, they won that playoff game, the Chiefs, because Bass missed a makeable field goal, and Dawkins couldn't hold Jones, or the Bills would have been up by 4 points to Shakir within 2 minutes left. These teams are a lot closer, and the Bills have been playing a lot better, so has Allen, than the Chiefs. Anything could happen, but the only way the Chiefs win this game, they have a +2 or 3 differential. Bills will pancake them.
Okay, Luke, thank you for I will kind of respond to the one thing. And look, it's worth exploring. I mean, heck, we saw this with Philadelphia last year. They were the team that was 10-1, and okay, that's not real. And you brought up Pittsburgh, and I had forgotten about that team, that Pittsburgh team with Roethlisberger, but you kind of knew, right? What's the difference, everyone? The difference is that Kansas City is the defending champ, okay? And that they have the head coach that is the best head coach in the league. And until somebody else says otherwise, that quarterback is the best in the league. So I can't poo-poo the Kansas City Chiefs at 9-0. I just cannot. And no, I don't think the only way Kansas City wins this game if they're +2 or 3. I think the way they win this game is dink, dunk, down the field. It will be a low-scoring affair, I predict, in this game. We'll give our official picks tomorrow. But, Luke, appreciate the call.
I'll push back on one thing specifically that Luke said. I don't think luck has anything to do with them being 10-0. I do not. And he specifically said they got lucky with the blocked field goal. That was not luck. That was identifying a weakness in a Broncos lineman and Alex Forsythe, knowing this guy's on his heels. If we dominate that guy at the line of scrimmage, we're blocking that kick. They did. They got the block. I mean, a lot has to happen for that, but it starts with the detail. It starts with paying attention and knowing by looking at on film and knowing the tendencies and the traits of a player to say, hey, if we overwhelm this guy at the line of scrimmage, we will get in for that block.
Is it luck that, go back to week 1. Upon further review, the Baltimore player had his toe out of bounds. Chiefs win the games. That's not luck.
It's detail, man.
Yeah.
It's just attention to detail. If you have it, you're going to win games. And I know it's a toe when you're talking about the likely touchdown that wasn't. It was a toe. And you could say, hey, that's just the way it goes, man.
Is it luck that I disagree with how Tampa played that down the stretch there, that, hey, you play for the walk-off there, and they didn't do that. They went, okay, well, how's this going to play out there?
Right.
So it's coaching, it's detail, it's all those things. You got to be on top of your game. Now, Luke, I'll agree with you. I do think the Bills are – let's put it this way. By record, you can say this is the best Bills team entering a Chiefs matchup. I'm not lying. Last year, the Bills were sputtering. The Bills were a 500 team going in Arrowhead.
Yeah.
Think about that.
And we always forget. Like, I don't think we forget, but it doesn't get brought up enough. The Bills would have lost that game in spectacular fashion, in a maddening sort of way, if Kadarius Toney doesn't line up offsides.
The Bills would be 6-7. They probably lose they would lose the division. Right? They needed that last game.
The Sean McDermott defense that everybody raves about, that is so consistent, this bend but don't break style, would have given up a massive big play when it matters the most on a lateral to Kadarius Toney, and the Chiefs win that game if not for Toney being offside. You all remember the temper tantrum that Mahomes threw afterwards, right? Everybody, the outcome of that game, the Bills winning that game, you could say, if you're a Chiefs fan, you could, well, they didn't deserve to win that game. Again, the details matter. And this year, I think the Chiefs are undefeated because they're minding those details. They are the team that is the least penalized for pre-snap penalties. What does our buddy Andre call them?
Administrative penalties.
Administrative penalties.
Oh, Mike Danger, come on. That's the referees. What are you talking about? The referees are all in favor here, and this guy Land is going to be – he's all pro.
Yeah, Land
Chiefs
Clark is the crew that'll have
Land Clark.
Yes. Land Clark of the Massachusetts Clarks. They actually rank number 1 in the NFL for calling illegal formation. They're number 2 for calling false starts. The Bills are the second most penalized offense for false starts. The Chiefs are the least penalized for false starts. Details. Little details. And you're at home, by the way. You shouldn't have a single false start when you're at home.
Did Deion Dawkins jump again? We love the snowman. We love dude, stop.
Well, if you're going to have that happen at home, isn't it, if you have no Spencer Brown, I mean, we take for granted, I think, how fortunate this team has been to be healthy enough on that offensive line where you've got this continuity and the same 5 guys starting every game for the better part of a season and a half. If Brown isn't out there, then yeah, who knows? Maybe you do have those false start penalties because you don't have the details buttoned up the way you need them buttoned up.
Interesting talking to Alex Gold, too. Just ask him straight out, tell me how you go against the Chiefs. And you forget, L'Jarius Sneed isn't there. He's in Tennessee. Took the money in Tennessee. Don't blame him. Go after the other corner opposite of McDuffie. So is that Shakir? Is that going to be Amari Cooper? Do you agree with me? It's certainly looking like Cooper is kind of positioning himself to play this week.
Yeah, his comments to the media today were encouraging, and we'll see if he's out there. I mean, I've been gone the last 2 days. Did you guys talk about Curtis Samuel at all and his performance against the Colts? Because he showed up. I mean, it wasn't like an eye-popping game.
No, I mean, it's – gosh, we didn't talk about Shaver's got a target in that game.
But you're so thin.
It's so thin.
What you need these guys.
I know.
This is where we are with wide receivers now is where the Bills were last postseason with linebackers, right? Like, who can we get? Can we get anybody to catch the football when we throw it to him? Outside of Shakir. Dalton Kincaid, not looking good, right?
No, but you're paying Dawson Knox this money. And for all this talk over, can we put to rest, oh, the Bills, 12 personnel, this is the way to go and create mismatches. They don't do it. They really don't do it. But if you're paying Dawson Knox this money and he's got this rapport and the Chiefs have been known to give up some yardage. I think of the guy from the Raiders, Bowers. Like, the tight end can get some yards against this Chiefs defense here, particularly if the Chiefs are really committed to selling out against James Cook. The other takeaway is, could this be the James Cook receiving game? And I remember the one pattern he catches the touchdown, flips into the end zone at Arrowhead, and boy, I'd like to see that. But do you really trust James Cook at being a primary option at wide, in terms of catching?
Well, what do you hope is that, James Cook makes a lot of those catches, but he also drops a lot of those balls too, and they always seem to be in the biggest games against the best opponents. When you need him the most, can he come up with that big play? There's a small part of me that believes that this could be a one-sided affair in one direction or the other. That one team just overwhelms the other team. For whatever reason. Maybe it is the injuries that finally catch up to the Bills offensively, and they're just not able to get anything going. And the defense for Kansas City is just too much. Maybe it is the Bills exploiting any weaknesses that they can find on the Chiefs' defense. But I worry about these injuries on the offense. I don't know that the matchups are that favorable for the Bills when you're talking about who they're actually going to have out there. I don't know that Kansas City's quaking in their boots over Tyrell Shavers potentially being an option for Josh Allen. Not having Kincaid is going to hurt. If Cooper is out there, great, but not having Coleman certainly stings. And Shakir, you just hope that Shakir can be what he's been and a little bit more. Can he find the end zone? It's going to be a lot of fun, man. I mean, it's I know you can't flex certain games out. Like this would have been a great primetime matchup, and I know anybody going to the game, just soak it all in because these are unbelievable memories you're making. This game is going to be one of those.
I know they say Sunday Night Football is like bigger game, but for us here in Western New York, where most people prefer Sunday at 1, but doesn't the 4:25 standalone game kind of fit better in your day? Honestly, like sometimes I'm like, okay, this game. It's bad. I'm turning.
Maybe I have a problem. I think the way it works best for me is when they kick off in Europe at 9:30 and they have a 4-game slate. That's the day that works best for me.
Danger. Going back to something we said on Friday, and you always care when I'm right. You might have missed this. There are going to be 8 games this year.
Yeah,
8 games outside the border, all hosted by AFC teams, presumably. So. I don't know, like if you're tapping teams, all right, where do the Buffalo Bills fall? Does that stadium make money that they're currently in? Yes, no. I'm telling you, they're going to get tapped, which I'm fine with. That would be a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Alex Gold was fantastic. You can hear him on our Odyssey Sports sister station, 96.5, The Fan in Kansas City. And if you missed that conversation, you can find the Sports Bar wherever you pod. Just search out the Sports Bar, including the free-to-download Odyssey app. That's Apple Podcasts as well, Spotify, wherever you get your shows. And we also appreciate you checking us out on our video stream. We're streaming live every afternoon on our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester. Like and subscribe while you're there, and you'll always be updated as to when we go live. And don't forget about the stream on Twitch as well at The Fan Rochester.
Happy birthday this week to Al Michaels, who turned 80. Do they give him a cake? Do they sing to him tonight? Washington and Philadelphia on Prime tonight.
Al is 80. 80.
80.
Man, I hope I'm as sharp as Al. Maybe not as grumpy, but sharp. I think he's still sharp. I just think he's a little grumpy. It just, like he just doesn't get off the vibe that he really wants to be there.
No, he keeps saying it incessantly.
Yeah. What a role model. 80. It's pretty good.
It's hard to tell what the crowd is right now. I think mainly Raiders a little bit, but you have a PA announcer here who incessantly screams whose house, and he wants them to say, no, I hate it. He wants them to say Rams house, but as far as the Raiders are concerned, well, this is kind of like their Airbnb.
I like that Kirk is always so positive and, happy-go-lucky guy, and I love it. I love that they say that. I hate it. Oh, okay, Al. You can't be grumpy tonight, man. You got a good matchup to kick off Week 11.
Washington and Philadelphia, and this has the feel of, okay, Philadelphia wins, away they go. Washington has been a fun story. I still think Washington is a playoff team, but they are really mature enough it seems like Philadelphia, where this time last year we're like, ooh, that doesn't look right. They're losing to Arizona. Ooh, they just got by Buffalo. And then, who was it, Cousin Dom? And everything goes south. Feels like the opposite this year with the Eagles.
Well, we'll be watching that one with some enthusiasm. I'm excited for Thursday night on Prime. We've got Sabres hockey tonight as well here on the Fan Rochester with puck drop just after 7 o'clock. The mouth breathers are in town.
Oh, Mike Danger, you shouldn't. We won a Stanley Cup. When was the last time your team won anything?
God, St. Louis is terrible. Just terrible.
Why?
Bunch of fake fans, bunch of frauds.
We play baseball we're the best baseball town in America.
Yeah. Bunch of frauds. Leaving their team when what was it, a couple years ago when it was against the
Phillies,
the Phillies, and the Phillies just they just took over Busch and all the fans left.
Well, the funny thing is, like, no, we are great baseball fans. We support their team is terrible. And I remember tuning in the game. It wasn't terrible weather, but there's nobody there. Yeah. Oh, you're like everybody else, it turns out. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the Sabres will look to get back on track against the Blues. I was at the game on Monday, as predicted. Overrun with Canadian fans. I was like, oh, this has got to be so demoralizing.
How do you fix that? How do you fix it? I mean, it was. I'm telling you, Danger, it wasn't always that way. Maybe, back then you didn't have opposing fans just being so brazen. I'm going to wear the jersey here. You were a little more incognito. That might be part of it, that we've kind of changed in that regard, where it's become the norm to wear a jersey to a game, like where before it wasn't.
I don't know how you do this as an organization, but you have to find a way as an organization to discourage that behavior. Selling your tickets on the secondary market, viewing the ticket as an investment rather than I'm a fan of the team.
The problem is if you just, okay, then I'm not buying the tickets. Then what happens? Here's the way you win, okay? Win.
Of course.
Win, and all it kind of just goes away.
Devin Levi between the pipes tonight for the Sabres. Tage Thompson out with the lower body. 7 o'clock tonight, Sabres hockey on the Fan Rochester. Let's get to a round of shots next, Gino.
Yeah, we will tell you where the Tampa Bay Rays are going to be playing. They made a decision on
this will be fun.
This made-for-TV event is actually happening tomorrow night. We haven't talked about this. I don't know if we call it a sporting event or what we call this. You know what I'm talking about? We'll get to this, too. We got a lawsuit concerning the Phoenix Suns as well.
All right, we'll get to a round of shots next. Last call, still on the way before 6 o'clock as well. If you want to have the final say, the final word here in the sports bar, pull up a stool. 585-866-4FAN, 866-4326.
Sports Update.
Setback for the Chiefs today. Kicker Harrison Butker is going on IR with a left knee injury. He's going to need arthroscopic surgery. This according to Tom Pelissaro. The Chiefs will sign a kicker off the Jets practice squad named Spencer Schrader. Taron Johnson on the challenge going up against Travis Kelce.
I mean, he's a very, very good player. When you got, he's been playing with Patrick Mahomes for a while, and their chemistry is undeniable. So just making sure that we can affect that chemistry, you know what I'm saying, with either the rush or how we're playing Kelce, just making sure that we can disrupt that.
Practice notes from today. Spencer Brown and Dalton Kincaid were not out there. Amari Cooper was limited. Sabres hockey tonight. The Blues the opponent. Devin Levi getting the start. Sports brought to you by GetMyPerks.com, where today get half off to Lasertron and Henrietta. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
If you want pure, unfiltered, unadulterated sports, you've come to the right place. 95.7 FM, The Fan, Rochester.
All right, before we say that the Chiefs are in a whole heap of trouble, and this is going to be a new environment for their new kicker here, Spencer Schrader. He's played in 2 NFL games. He was the kicker on the season opener for Indy. He went 3 for 3 on point after attempts. He didn't try any field goals last week with the Jets, 2 for 2. He hit from 25 and 45, 2 field goals for the Jets. Last week, in a completely different environment that he's never played in before here in Buffalo, coming up here on Sunday. What's the forecast, by the way? Not too bad.
No, it might be overcast, but yeah, it's not going to be anything that's going to determine the outcome of the game, certainly. The Tampa Bay Rays will be playing next season in Tampa. What a novel concept. The actual city. Steinbrenner Field, that's a spring training home of the Yankees, formerly Legends Field. Seats 11,000. Now,
typical attendance for a Rays is usually less than that, so they're probably okay.
Look, but then again, this might kind of tell everybody, hey, rather than putting the stadium all the way out in St. Pete, put it where people can get to the game. Let's see if that'll play out. If you're not familiar with the venue, it's right across the street practically from Raymond James Stadium, the home of the Buccaneers. The Class A Tampa Tarpons are going to have to find another home this season. Tropicana Field, by the way, will not be ready until 2026. As part of this deal, the Rays are going to pay the Yankees $15 million in rent.
God. What a cruel, cruel twist of fate. It just, I mean, like, you're always going to have to get over on the Yankees if you want to win the division, and then on top of that, you can't even. Well, you got to pay them to play in their stadium.
The whole thing, like, who's the more popular team in Tampa? The actual Tampa area. I'm not talking about. Wouldn't you say the Yankees?
Of course, it's the Yankees, because he's Italian.
No Tage Thompson. No.
Wait, but before we move off of that, real quick, Tampa in the summer is not a fun place to be. These games are all going to be at night, and even at night, I have to imagine that's going to be a nightmare.
No, and the reason they have a dome there because, well, why did they name the team the Lightning and the hockey team?
Right.
Yeah. How many delays are there going to be? I don't know. There were no great options.
The best of a bad situation, I guess. All right. Sorry, Gene.
No problem. Tage Thompson not in. UPL not in. Both day-to-day. There's hope they could return Saturday when the Sabres begin a 4-game road trip first up in Philadelphia. So for tonight, it's Devin Levi trying to make a case that he needs to stay in the NHL. James Reimer just claimed off of waivers from Anaheim. Will back him up. 7:30 for the coverage tonight. Be advised. Well, we'll have the game here. This game is not on MSG tonight. Oh. It's on ESPN Plus and Hulu.
All right. Yeah, Devin Levi, to my eye, in just seeing him on Monday in the third period, to my eye, still looks like an AHL goaltender. To my eye. I feel like he needs a little bit more seasoning. He feels like he's a liability. Certainly something that is not going to put fear into any opponent. Like, you can get by Devin Levi in the NHL.
It all happened pretty quickly when he came out of Northeastern. And look, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for him just to be here for the rest of the year. We were joined by Mike Leone. He joins us every Tuesday, the head coach of the Amerks. I had to ask them question point blank, like, hey, I know you're not involved in the decisions, but what about Devin Levi coming down? And he couldn't answer that question. But you kind of know, like, wouldn't that be the thing that pushes the Amerks over the top? Wouldn't that be better for Levi in the long run, too?
Right. I think that's worth paying attention to, and let's see how he looks tonight against the Blues, getting the start. Because in that third period against Montreal, I got the sense just from being there, seeing it firsthand, like he's not going to be able to stop everything that gets thrown his way at the NHL level. I just don't think he's that goaltender just yet.
I'm not sure if this is a sporting event or more of a sideshow, but it's gaining a lot of attention and people are talking about it. Mike Tyson stepping back into the ring tomorrow night against Jake Paul. It's at AT&T Stadium, the home of the Dallas Cowboys. The event live on Netflix. Of course it is. The 7th and final fight on this card, so I couldn't tell you what time this is actually going to go off. Tyson is now 58 years old. Jake Paul is a 27-year-old YouTube star who also boxes on the side. Paul is minus 175 in the money line.
Who you got?
Oh, who cares? That's what I say.
Oh, Gene, come on. Have some fun with me on this one.
Oh, who cares?
How would I know?
Really? No interest at all?
None.
Oh, I'm interested in this.
No, because I'm old enough. No! I'm old enough to remember Tyson
Of course.
and what he meant, and there hasn't been anything close to what he was. And do I want to see old Mike Tyson going out there and getting pummeled? That's part of it, Danger. That's why I'm like, I don't want to watch this.
What if he doesn't get pummeled? What if he beats the crap out of this kid? I mean, I'll say this. The reason why I think he's minus 175, obviously he's younger, right? And you call him a YouTuber. I think he's a boxer now. Like, I really think he's put in a lot of work and time and energy into being more than just a YouTuber or viewed as more than just a YouTuber. So I get why he's favored, and I think that youth probably serves him well. But what if Tyson shows up because of his technique and his experience and everything that he brings to the table? What if Tyson plants one and knocks the kid out? I have to know. I have to see it.
Of course, and you've got Netflix will be very happy for you getting used to watching live events on Netflix like they're going to have coming up tomorrow.
I can't be against it, Gino, because Netflix is going to have a couple of NFL games here next month. I mean, like this is the world that we live in now. I'm not going to push back against that. I just think that it is a sideshow. It is a promotional event, and I'd say it's a step up from what they gave us in Kobayashi and Chestnut, right?
Okay, I'll give you that. I'll give you that point. But isn't it a terribly sad commentary on a sport that is dead?
Poor boxing, yes.
like neither one of these guys.
Yeah. Well, that's, again, the world is changing. The world has changed. And, man, if you look at some of that old – if you're too young to remember Mike Tyson or to have seen any of that guy's fights, I mean, there are so many great clips. I mean, and you can watch the majority of his fights, and it won't take up a lot of your time because his fights didn't last very long. He was just dominant.
It was like he's a tiger. We're opening up the cage, and he would come rushing out and
kill
bam,
you.
bam, bam. Yeah,
He wanted to kill people. He was a bad man. And I guess I hear what you're saying. Like, you don't want to see that guy the way you remember him go out there and get beat up by a 27-year-old, but I don't know that that's going to happen. I would assume that the youth is probably too much for him to overcome. But Jake Paul is working his ass off to beat Mike Tyson in this exhibition. I would understand why the line is at minus 175.
Like, as far as things in the sporting world that would shock you, Tyson losing to Buster Douglas is right up there.
Unbelievable.
That was
nobody saw
I
it.
don't believe that. I don't believe that.
Yeah,
actually.
Nobody who's there? Was anybody there? I mean, I know that they televised it and the whole thing. Do we really know that actually happened? That Tyson actually lost to Buster Douglas in Japan? I mean, it's Japan after all. It could have been completely made up. Stage.
Today there would have been there would have been some no, he was it was food poisoning that it should be thrown out. Like we would.
Well, everything that was around that though at that time, all kind of led to this is how the downfall begins, right? I mean, he was
never the same after.
He was distracted. Yeah. He had a lot going on outside of the ring, and Douglas just got the best of him. It was a bizarre outcome that nobody saw coming because he was just so dominant for so long, and that was, you're right, he never recovered from that. I mean, he came back. I remember when he came back against
Vander Holyfield.
No, remember the McNeely fight?
Oh, Pete McMeat.
Yeah. when I just remember, because that was the first fight after he got out of jail, right?
Got out of jail, yeah.
And he came out with this. He was wearing the towel, and he had, the Red Man, Time for Some Action was his walk-up song, and he had this look. I'm like, I think McNeely is going to die. I'm worried that McNeely is going to be sacrificed tonight.
Pete McNeely? How did you pull that?
Do you remember him?
Yes.
Unbelievable. I have to watch just to see Tyson in the ring at this stage of his life. I'm kind of curious about that. Call me that maybe it's a morbid curiosity, but I need to see. I need to see how it goes.
You know how this is going to go. Like, they'll start this at 8 o'clock, and it won't be till like 11:30 midnight.
Oh, right. Yeah. Just to keep in line with what we expect out of a boxing promotion. Nothing ever goes to plan. Everything always lasts longer than it's supposed to.
Cut away to Jerry sitting up in this box, counting the money. The Phoenix Suns are being sued by a former employee, Andrea Trishon.
Yes, I am suing the Phoenix Suns. I'm going to sue Kevin Johnson. I'm going to sue Dan Lambier. I'm going to sue Dan Marley. Dan Marley's a bad, bad man, Gene. He threw me down the stairs, and I ended up in the sand outside of the desert, and I lost my shoes.
Dan Marley and Kevin Johnson are not named in this lawsuit.
No, they are. I'm going to sue them for punitive damages.
Trishon was hired as the head of DEI, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion of the Suns in 2022, 6 days after the NBA announced that then owner Robert Sarver had been suspended a year and fined $10 million.
Yes, Robert Sarver is very mean. Very mean. He said some very rude things to me about my height and my glasses. And I have to wear these. These are my prescriptions. And when I get thrown down the stairs, my glasses fell off, and Sarver stepped on them. That bastard. I'm suing him too. Punitive damages.
Trishon is seeking $60 million.
I just want what's due. My punitive damages. I'm going to sue Sarver. I'm going to sue Dan Marley. I'm going to sue Charles Barkley. He's very mean to me. Threw me through a stained glass window at a bar. And I fell on my ass pipe, and I was very embarrassed. He was pointing and laughing at me.
Adam Silver's an attorney. I don't think you want to be suing Adam
I'm
Silver.
suing Adam Silver, too. He threw a martini in my face at the bar. Charles Barkley threw me the stained glass window. I'm very, very sore about all of this. I'm suing everybody.
And you swear you're not?
No. I am not.
I don't believe you.
I was heavily influenced at a young age. Probably listened to a little bit more than I needed to of the Jerky Boys.
Finally, if you're a visiting hockey team getting ready to play the New York Rangers on the road, well, where do you have your morning skate? Well, at MSG, but what if MSG is booked? What if they're getting ready for a basketball game or a concert? Well, you go over to nearby Chelsea Piers. Chelsea Piers doesn't have a private locker room for visiting NHL teams. Think about that, how that kind of works out. So when the San Jose Sharks were getting ready to take the ice at Chelsea Piers, a beer league hockey team was just coming off while the Zamboni. That's when a beer league goalie, 65-year-old Harold Robinson, took a shot, asked if he could have a few reps between the pipes. Sure, why not, said the Sharks coach. Only in hockey could something like this actually
happen. That's fantastic, man. A 65-year-old beer league goalie who probably got the call at the last minute because they couldn't find a goalie. That their normal goalie backed out at the last minute. Let's go to the reserves. Let's get the 65-year-old. Let's get old Harold in here. And Harold's like, yeah, what the hell? Let me take a few pucks. Why not? Let's go. Yeah, you're right. That is absolutely a hockey story.
Because you could ever do that. Like the closest thing, I guess, would be Diggs throwing with fans, but that's not real practice. It's just gonna.
It's a bravery thing when you're talking about playing against NHL players or former NHL players, hell, AHL players. Like anytime I've played in a charity game against the alumni, I'm like, this is embarrassing. You guys are just freaks. It's a different level. And if you're a 65-year-old beer league goalie, I'm sure you're thinking to yourself, yeah, let me try and get a couple of stops here. I'd like to know how he fared in that endeavor.
But wouldn't you like to try it out once? Like you're padded up. You're not going to get injured.
If you're a goalie, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. But I'm telling you, if you're skating with those guys or trying to skate with those guys and you're just a mere mortal like we are, forget it. You're going to look silly. You're going to look absolutely silly every time I've played in a charity game against any of the old timers, any of just ridiculous. They are. What you see on TV or what you see when you go to a game doesn't do justice how skilled these guys are. It really doesn't. I love that story. We got to take a break. Come back. Last call is next. 866-4326. If you want to have the final word in the sports bar, 585-866-4FAN.
On the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Last call in the sports bar. Danger and Battaglia. Glad you're with us this afternoon. Appreciate you listening, however you do so. 95.7 FM, AM 950. The free to download Odyssey app. Your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. We've even got our video stream up and rolling for you on our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester. Like and subscribe while you're there. You can check us out on Twitch at The Fan Rochester as well. It's last call at 866-4326-585-866-4FAN. Our buddy John from Rochester checking in. Hey, pal.
Hey, guys, I got to tell you, Sunday is the end of the road for the Chiefs. It's the beginning of the end. The Bills are going to wallop them, and that's it for the Chiefs for this year. We're going to get home field advantage. And I got to tell you, Alex from Kansas City, I got a bone to pick with him. I think Josh Allen's playing better right now than Mahomes, and Josh Allen has escalated himself above Mahomes. What are your thoughts on that?
I would say Josh Allen is having a better season than Mahomes.
Season, yes.
I would say if Mahomes is the 1 seed and the Chiefs are 16-1, Mahomes is probably the MVP.
I hate to point this out, too. If the Bills win this game, Kansas City still is the number 1 seed. You'd have to still make up one more game. You get the tiebreaker.
Yeah, you have to hope that they trip up against a divisional opponent or something. The Browns surprise them.
Yeah, and Niners at Detroit.
Yep.
And you got a game in the Rams in between. That's look, 13-4. That's an incredible season, and a season that you're supposedly rebuilding with all the cap going against you and everything else. 13-4 would get you the 2 seed. And I don't know if one of those 4 losses is going to be against Kansas City or not here. That's why, when we had Dan Fates earlier, he scoffed at don't pause and reflect. Nobody wants to do that. Just smell the roses here.
I'm. There's a small part of me that believes that it could be one-sided. That the Chiefs coming in to this environment on this day, on Sunday, with the Bills riding a win streak, Josh Allen playing as good as he's played as a pro, albeit not eye-popping statistics, but his decision-making has been so much better this season. With the potential for him to become an MVP, a true MVP candidate down the stretch here. If you win against Kansas City, that chatter gets louder and louder, and Lamar's kind of fades a little bit here, depending on their outcome. I think there's a lot to play for there, and it could end up being one-sided in one direction or the other. I'm not going to dismiss what the Chiefs bring to the table and the fits that Andy Reid can come up with here. I mean, we've seen the Chiefs handle Sean McDermott's defense in the past. We've seen Patrick Mahomes handle Sean McDermott's defense in the past. It's going to be a lot of fun. And Alex Gold was fantastic. He's from our Odyssey Sports sister station, 96.5 The Fan in Kansas City. If you missed that conversation, our preview of Bills and Chiefs with Alex Gold, you can find that wherever you get your podcasts. That includes the free-to-download Odyssey app and Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and others.
Tomorrow on the show, Alex Brasky, Batavia Daily News Bills Digest is look, we're going to have news, okay? Sean McDermott may rule out one of these guys tomorrow. Maybe it ends up being questionable with Kincaid as well as Spencer Brown. Do we get a clear answer on Amari Cooper? Alex will give us an update tomorrow. And as well as Andy Barron's Yahoo Fantasy is Week 11 beginning tonight here with the Commanders and Eagles.
I really like tonight's matchup. I can't wait. I'm excited for that. Excited for Week 11 to get underway. And excited for tomorrow afternoon as well. We'll have our predictions. Andy Barron's, Alex Brasky. And we'll get you set for another fantastic weekend of sports here in the Flower City. Gino, have a great night. We'll talk to you tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock.
Welcome back, buddy.
I will be on with the break room. That's tomorrow morning, right after 9 o'clock for Tommy Tells It Like It Is. We have predictions there as well. And again, thanks to Alex Brasky. I'm sorry, thanks to Alex Gold and Dan Fates for stopping by the sports bar this afternoon and helping us preview Sunday's action between the Bills and the Chiefs. JR Sport Brief is next. Sabres hockey as Buffalo hosts St. Louis coming up at 7 o'clock tonight with the puck drop. You'll hear that action here on The Fan as well. Have a great night.